Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to all my students here via Zoom, and to all the viewers via Facebook Live. A pleasant evening and welcome to our coaching session for today. To begin our review, may I ask Sir David Jose from the University of Santo Tomas to lead us in the opening prayer. Sir David. Oh, okay. Can I ask a volunteer then to lead us in the opening prayer?
Okay, let us pray. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much. So once again, good evening. I'm Dr. Rowena Arcantelio. I will be your lecturer for today. So just to give you a few details about myself, to tell you a little about myself. I'm a full-time faculty member of the University of Perpetual Help System Laguna, where I teach in both College of Education and senior high school. Apart from that, I am a co-trainer and owner of Owen Oral Communication Training, the editor-in-chief of The Probe, the official newsletter of our research council. I also serve as the research coordinator and a subject area chair for research subjects in the aforementioned university. So I am very excited and grateful for this opportunity to be part of Teacher A's mission of transforming dreamers into achievers. And as a faculty member of the College of Education, I am equally passionate in producing certified and competitive teachers who will join us in the education sector. So without much further ado, let's get started. So I will be reviewing you in 3 areas for general education. Okay, English, which will cover or comprise 25% of the items that you will be answering in Gen Ed. And science, 20% of the items will be coming from science, and 15% of the items will be coming from Filipino. So let's start with English. So first, I would like to review on literature. After literature, we'll be dealing with language. Let's start with a topic that I'm 101% sure will be covered in your licensure examination, and that is figures of speech. So in all standardized tests, may that be licensure examinations, achievement tests, NCAI, NSAT, okay, quiz bees, and Battle of the Brains, figures of speech are always part of the question. So it would be a big plus points on your part if you'll get to master all these. So let's start. I will be expecting answers from you via chat box. Let's start with the first question. What refers to an association? Okay. Okay. I have just shown the answer. All right. So what refers to an association wherein the name of something is substituted by something that represents it? I believe you've seen the answer earlier. Okay. So that is metonymy. Okay. So how about personification? Okay, comparison and euphemism. Let's discuss or let us rationalize why metonymy is the correct answer. There are over 100 figures of speech in the English language. And for the purpose of this review, I would like to discuss them into three categories. We have figures of resemblance or relationship, figures of emphasis or understatement, and figures of sound. There are two other categories, but since this is for the purpose of general education, I will not dig deeper into them. So let's talk about figures of resemblance. These terms are very much familiar to you, I'm sure. Simile, metaphor, personification, metonymy, synecdoche, and euphemism. Let's talk about simile. Be ready for drills later. So all right, when we say simile, this refers to comparison between two unlike entities using like and as. For example, how come it's not responding? For example, she is as beautiful as a rose. So that is simile. You compare two unlike entities, a person and a flower, using the word as. Or for example, when you say um, she is like fierce lion when mad. So you compare a person and an animal using like. So that is simile. Give me a while. All right, there you go. So comparison between two unlike things using the word like and as, that's simile. The next one is metaphor. Metaphor, on the other hand, is direct comparison. So when we use metaphor, you omit the like and the as, and um, you will just do direct comparison. For example, she is a blessing in disguise. So that is direct comparison. You compare two unlike entities without like and as. All right, give me a while. All right, the third one is personification. When we say personification, we make use of human qualities or entities to non-human subjects, or we make use of human actions and human characteristics to, let's say, plants and animals. For example, in the poem, I wandered lonely as a cloud. So I wandered lonely as a cloud. That is an example of personification. Right. Give me a while. Okay, so several examples of personification are the flowers nodded. So nodding is a human action. We use it to flowers. So you personify flowers. Another is snowflakes dance. Dancing is a human activity. So that's another example. And the thunder grumbled. So the last one or another one is euphemism. Okay. All right. Okay, my screen is not responding. Okay, there you go. So euphemism is the use of mild, indirect, or vague term that often substitute a harsh, blunt, or offensive term. So we make use of euphemism in order to not sound offensive to other people. For example, instead of saying something used or secondhand, we make use of the term pre-owned. That's euphemism. What else? Instead of saying old, we use the word senior. Instead of saying poor, we say economically challenged. Or to euthanize, okay, to do mercy killing, you say you put to sleep. So that is euphemism. Okay, and another is synecdoche. We use synecdoche in order to, whenever we use a part to represent a whole. For example, they are living in one roof. So roof represents the whole house. But instead of saying house, we make use of a part of the house to refer to it. Okay, what else? She needs to feed 3 hungry stomachs. Okay, or after her husband died, the widow needs to feed 3 hungry stomachs. So stomach there represents children. So instead of saying children, we make use of a body part to represent the whole. So that is synecdoche. May I know what's in your screen? Because mine is not responding. It's still euphemism. Can you?
Euphemism, ma'am.
Euphemism. Okay.
Simple.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So synecdoche additional examples are behind bars. Bars is used to signify jail. Okay. When we say wheels, he has a brand new wheels. Okay. Wheels is used to represent a car. And green thumb signifies a person who is good at gardening. So that's synecdoche. So let us recap. Again, when we say simile, it's comparison, okay, using like and as. Metaphor, that's direct comparison. What else? Personification, when we make use of human actions and qualities to non-human entities. Okay, euphemism, when we make use of a mild term in replacement of an offensive or harsh word. And synecdoche, when we make use of a part to represent the whole. So let me give you some exercises. I want you to answer in the chat box. Okay, I will not make you answer letters. Okay, I want you to type the entire or the word, okay, for better retention. So your options are simile, metaphor, personification, synecdoche, and euphemism. Come on. What is wrong? Okay, so let's start. Number 1, a dream is a wish your heart makes. This is from Walt Disney's Cinderella. I opted to lift lines from certain literary pieces because these are also possible questions in your examination. Okay, so what's the answer? Okay, very good. Everybody got the correct answer. A dream is a wish, so that's direct comparison. It's metaphor. Very good. Okay, next. Teachers need to pay more attention to mentally challenged pupils. Teachers need to pay more attention to mentally challenged. Okay, all right, very good. You got it right. Euphemism. Next, love is like the wild rose briar. Okay, correct. Simile. And it ended. Okay. Okay. All right, next one. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. This is lifted from The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. What's the correct answer? Oh, uh, all right, very good. Correct answer is personification. So this one, it was a brilliant idea because 10 heads conceptualized it. It was a brilliant idea because 10 heads conceptualized it. Okay, check your spelling, although you won't be required to spell it out in the licensure examination. Okay, better double check your spelling. So the correct spelling is, okay, the correct answer is yes, synecdoche. All right, so I think we're good with that first category. Next, let's proceed to the second one. Okay, category wherein we use exaggeration or understatement. So one figure of speech is what we call as the hyperbole. It uses exaggeration for emphasis or effect. For example, I told you 1,000 times. That's exaggeration because not literally you've told a person 1,000 times. Okay, what else? That must have cost $1 billion. Okay, just to mean that it's very expensive, even if it doesn't literally mean 1 billion. Okay, and I could do this forever. So that's another exaggeration. So hyperbole, okay, keyword is exaggeration. Next is what we call as oxymoron. Oxymoron is when we pair two words together that are opposing or contradictory. For example, when say you're pretty ugly. So pretty and ugly, that's contradicting. So that's an example of oxymoron. What else? Terribly good. Okay, wise fool. What else? In sentence level, my sister and I had a friendly fight. How can you become friendly at the same time fighting over the lipstick? Okay, and I think the professor stated his unbiased opinion. When we say opinion, okay, it's subjective. So when it says unbiased opinion, so that's contradicting. So that's oxymoron. Next is paradox. A paradox is a statement that appears to be contradictory, but upon reflection, then you would realize that it makes sense. So writers often use paradox in order to stimulate critical thinking among among readers or from the readers. So here are common examples, or here are examples of paradox. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Come to think of it, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So that's a paradox. So an enemy and a friend contradicting, but come to think of it, the enemy of your enemy is, of course, okay, an ally or a friend on your part. Okay, what else? If you don't risk anything, you risk everything. If you don't risk anything, you risk everything. Okay. And this one, according to Plato, I know one thing, I know nothing. Knowing that you know nothing is knowing one thing. So that's a paradox. So you might be confused, or you might be wondering, both paradox and oxymoron refers to contradictory statements. What is the difference? Oxymoron is in the word level. So you only use two contradicting word or terminology, while in paradox, you make use of phrases. So it goes beyond one word. You make use of contradicting phrases or statements. Okay, so another one is what we call as the irony. Irony occurs when there's a marked contrast between what is said and what is meant, or between appearance and reality. So what you see is different from what a person is saying, that's ironically speaking. So here are certain examples of irony. Irony could be verbal or situational. For example, when someone says, "How nice," and then she said, when I told her I had to work all weekend. So, of course, working all weekend without resting, that's not nice, but you say, that's nice. So, that's irony. What else? If a traffic cop gets suspended for not paying his parking ticket, okay? A cop is supposed to implement the law, but he got suspended for not paying his parking ticket. So, that's ironic. What else? The Titanic was said to be an unsinkable ship, but it sank on its first voyage. So that's another ironic situation. So that is irony. All right, so let's have another drill. Your answers or your options are hyperbole, paradox, oxymoron, or irony. Okay, so ready? This is the first item. Zedia was complicated. Two fairies in one, a loyal traitor. That's from Gail Carson Levine. Zedia was complicated. Two fairies in one, a loyal traitor. So is that hyperbole, paradox, oxymoron, or irony? Okay. Mm-hmm. There are differences in your answer. Okay. The correct answer is oxymoron. Why oxymoron? Can you tell me what word? You can turn on your microphone or you can type in the chat box. Loyal and
Complicated to loyal. Complicated to
okay.
loyal.
Very good. Complicated and
Loyal
loyal is
traitor.
all right. Very
Loyal
good. So that's
traitor.
it.
Loyal traitor,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. So loyal and traitor are contradicting words. So that is oxymoron. Okay. Next, I love you to the moon and back. Have someone told you I love you to the moon and back?
Hyperbole.
Yeah, very good. That's exaggeration. Don't believe it. Okay, that's hyperbole. So exaggeration. Next, life is a preparation for the future. And the best preparation for the future is to live as if there were none. That's Albert Einstein's. Okay. Life is a preparation for the future. And the best preparation for the future is to live as if there were none. The correct answer is it's something to tickle your critical thinking. So it's a paradox. Okay. So those who answered paradox, very good. It's really a little challenging item. Next, a retired CEO. This is a real life example. A retired CEO of the Crayola company suffered from color blindness. Oh. All right, very good. So the correct answer is irony. Okay, so we're done with the second category. Now let's have the third category. We're in figurative language, which pertains to sounds. Okay, the first one is what we call as alliteration. When we say alliteration, it's the repetition of the beginning sounds of neighboring words. This is common in nursery rhymes and in tongue twisters. For example, she sells seashells. So the repetition of the s sound. Okay, repetition of the letter S in the beginning of the word. So alliteration. What else? Walter wondered where Winnie was. So repetition of the W or the W sound. Okay, what else? Blue baby bonnets bob through the bayou. So that is another repetition. So that's alliteration. Repetition of the beginning sounds in neighboring words. Next is assonance. Okay. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds, not just letters, in words that are close together. The sounds don't have to be at the beginning of the word. So it could be in any part of the word, okay, as compared to alliteration, which only does repetition in the beginning. Assonance could be found in any part of the word for as long as there is a repetition of vowel sounds, the a, e, o, u sound. So or the A-E-I-O-U sound. So number one example is, this one is from Edgar Allan Poe. Okay, for the rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels named Lenore. So there's a repetition of the A sound. Okay. Next is, therefore, all seasons shall be sweet to thee. Okay, the repetition of the E sound. And from what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. This is from Robert Frost. Okay, the repetition of the I or the E sound. So that is assonance. Alliteration, repetition of sounds in the beginning of words. Assonance could be happening in any part of the word for as long as a certain vowel sound is repeated. Okay, so now let's have anaphora. Anaphora is a technique of writers where several phrases or verses begin with the same word or words. For example, this is very familiar to you from the play Julius Caesar. I came, I saw, I conquer. So there is a pattern, okay, a repetition of phrases. I came, I saw, I conquer. Another is Mad World, Mad Kings, Mad Composition. This is from the play King John II by William Shakespeare. So, another example of anaphora. Next, this one is from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I hope you also remember the titles and the authors, because these are also possible items in your examination. So, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, okay, it was the age of foolishness. Okay, so anaphora, okay, wherein several phrases or verses begin with the same word or words. Okay, so onomatopoeia is very easy. Okay, it's a term for a word that sounds like what it is describing, and we often use this in poetry. For example, and in nursery rhymes as well. For example, whoosh, splat, choo choo to refer to train, and then mew to refer to the sound produced by cats. Okay, earth for dogs. Okay, and in sentences, the buzzing bee flew away. Okay, or the sack fell into the river with a splash. So that's onomatopoeia. Okay, so lastly, okay, is apostrophe. This is another common figurative language used in poetry and in novels. Okay, wherein a writer directly addresses a non-existent person or an inanimate object as though it were a living being. Okay, common example is the favorite nursery rhyme of kids. It's actually from the poem "The Star" by Jane Taylor. Remember that. A twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. So it was Jane Taylor who wrote that. Uh, the lyrics of that song, "The Star." Okay, so when you talk to the stars, okay, you talk to an inanimate object. Okay, that is apostrophe. Or another example here is from the novel entitled Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. "O stars and clouds and winds, ye are all about to mock me. If ye really pity me, crush sensation and memory. Let me become as naught, but if not, depart, depart, and leave me in darkness." So you are talking to the stars and the clouds and the wind, so that's apostrophe. Okay, so let's have another drill. Your options are, okay, alliteration, assonance, anaphora, and onomatopoeia. All right, so the first one: we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall never surrender. Okay.
Anaphora.
All right, very good. It's anaphora, the repetition of the beginning of the phrase. Next, Fred fried frogs legs on Friday. Frog's legs on Friday. Fred fried frog's legs on Friday. Okay, the correct answer, yes, it's, yeah, alliteration. Okay. Next, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. Uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. Okay, you have the same answer. If it's assonance, what vowel sound was repeated several times? Okay, the letter U, but it's the a sound. All right, so that's by Edgar Allan Poe. And last one, the clap of thunder went bang and scared my poor dog. The clap of thunder. Okay. The clap of thunder went bang and scared my poor dog. All right, correct. Bang. And what figurative language is that? Okay, very good. So that is onomatopoeia. All right, there. Just like what I've mentioned earlier, there are over 100 figures of speech, and what we are reviewing now are just the common ones. But if you can have further readings on figurative language, that's an advantage on your part. You will be guaranteed at least 3 correct answers in your examination. But just a reminder, figures of speech or figurative language, they are only advisable for creative writing and conversational uh, utterances. We do not use figures of speech in technical writing. So it's a no-no when it comes to writing your term papers, your research papers, your theses. All right. So technical writing, you do not use a figurative language or figures of speech, but it's a good literary device when you are writing your poems, your novels, your plays. So it's for everyday conversation, informal utterances, and creative writing. Okay. Now let's have another item, last one to test. Okay, if you have understood the previous slides, what figure of speech is used in the following passage? The truth occurred to me that Mother Nature fulfills her duty more faithfully than man does his own. Letter A, personification. Letter B, simile. Letter C, synecdoche. Or letter D, metaphor. Okay. All right, very good. The correct answer is personification. Okay, so we're done with figures of speech. Now let's talk about literary genres. Can I ask a volunteer to read the third question? Someone read the third question, please. Any volunteer? Me, Miss Camille Santos.
Oh, ma'am.
Yes, please
Hello po.
read the. Miss Camille, could you please read the third question?
The total of traditional derived and orally transmitted literature, material culture, and custom within predominantly literate and technology and advanced societies and referred to as folk song, folk tale, folklore, folk literature.
Okay, you have everybody. Thank you very much, Camille. You have 5 seconds to answer. Okay, I have 3 letter C's, then 1 letter D. How about the others? D, C, C. Okay, so let's orally transmitted. Okay, so let's see. But the correct answer is letter C, folklore. Correct. So let's differentiate the 4. It may not be folklore given in the question, or it could be anything else. Okay, any of these 4. When we say folk song, it's given. Okay, it's a song belonging to the folk music of a people or area. When we say folk tale, it is characteristically anonymous, timeless, and placeless tale circulated orally among a people or a group of a community. Okay, folklore, the traditional beliefs, customs, and stories of a community passed through the generations by word of mouth. And folk literature includes mythology, legends, epics, fables, folk tales, passed down by word of mouth through the generations. But all four of them actually are passed down from one generation to another through word of mouth. Okay, so for that, the correct answer is folklore. Just take note of the definitions of the other three genres. Okay, so let's have question number 4. Who is recognized as the father of modern fantasy literature? Okay, it's a common question. Father of this, uh, okay, father of that. Right? What do you think is the correct answer? Okay, some answered A, some answered D. How about the others? C. All right. It's a little challenging because we don't really memorize all these titles for writers. Okay, so what we can do as technique is to eliminate obvious distractors or options that are obviously wrong. So how do we eliminate it? Which one is automatically eliminated? We are asking for,
Homer.
okay, why do we eliminate Homer
C
right
and D.
away? Okay,
Kasi
why do
hindi
we
po siya
eliminate?
modern.
Very good. Homer actually is an ancient Greek writer, okay, and historian. So definitely it will not fall under the category modern fantasy literature. Okay, so we cross out letter D. Now, let's cross out another obvious wrong option. So we only have 3 options, A, B, and C. So let's remove another obviously wrong option. So we will eliminate distractors. Why do we remove C? Tabby?
American writer po ma'am yung si Samuel Clemens.
Okay, American writer. Okay, what else? If I'm the one answering the question, I'll eliminate letter B right away. Why? I will eliminate letter B right away. Why? Two latest? Okay, possibly. Okay, what else?
Philanthropist.
A philanthropist. Okay, what else? We're looking for a father of modern fantasy literature. Yes, J.K. Rowling is a mother. So she wrote Harry Potter. She's a female. Definitely, she can't be father of modern fantasy literature. So when we have eliminated letter B, okay, because of gender, and letter D because of time frame, okay, we only have 2 options. You said Samuel Clemens couldn't be father of modern fantasy literature. So you have J.R.R. Tolkien as correct answer. Okay, very good, David, Sir David Jose. Okay, the writer of the Lord of the Rings. Okay, so that's the correct answer. All right. So among his works are the Lord of the Rings series, The Fall of Gondolin, okay, and The Hobbit. So I remember that. Father of modern fantasy literature. Now let's talk about Samuel Clemens. Okay, Samuel Clemens is the real name of Mark Twain, who gave us the famous the adventures of Tom Sawyer and the adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is one of the greatest novels in American literature. So among the other works of Mark Twain are The Life on the Mississippi and The Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. So I hope you familiarize yourself with this because these are other possible source of questions. So what is the real name of Mark Twain? That's Samuel Clemens. All right. Next is yes. there is no title given yet to J.K. Rowling or Joanne Rowling, but her Harry Potter is considered now as the best-selling or highest-grossing book series in history. So that's the Harry Potter series. Okay. Next, Homer. Okay, just your answer earlier is correct. Homer can be father of modern fantasy literature because he is an ancient Greek author. What did he write? He gave us, of course, the Iliad. Okay, who can forget the characters Helen of Troy, uh, Achilles, okay, Paris, and also its sequel, the Odyssey. So that's Homer's Iliad. Homer is a common item in licensure examination, so remember him. Okay, so here are other important names in literature. In English literature, the father of English literature, poetry, language, and short story is Geoffrey Chaucer, who is very popular for his Canterbury Tales. Okay, when it comes to essay, the father of English essay is Francis Bacon. Okay, um, what else? Okay, in Philippine literature, the father of Philippine children's literature is none other than our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal. The father of Filipino linguistics is Cecilio Lopez. And the father of Tagalog dialect and Tagalog poem or poetry is Francisco Balagtas. So remember those names. Oh no. Did I just refill the... Okay, let's go back. Let us recap. Let us review. Again, I want you to answer in the chat box. Okay, who is the father of Philippine children's literature?
Rizal.
Okay, very good. How about the father of Tagalog poetry? Okay. How
Balagtas.
about... All right. How about the highest selling book series in history?
Harry Potter.
Okay. All right. Okay. What is Homer very popular or famous for? Okay, the Iliad. Okay. Also, its
Iliad.
sequel. Okay, the Odyssey, the Iliad and the Odyssey. All right. So next question. I hope you didn't get to see the answer earlier. Which of the following is Edgar Allan Poe's story of terror about a hypochondriac living in morbid fear? Letter A, Annabel Lee. Letter B, The Fall of the House of Usher. Letter C, Macbeth. And letter D, The Raven. So let us eliminate obvious wrong answer. If you were to remove one wrong answer, which one would
Macbeth.
you eliminate? Very good. Why Macbeth? Because
William Shakespeare. That's William Shakespeare, as I...
exactly. So all these three are works of Edgar Allan Poe, except for Macbeth because it's Shakespeare. Okay, you'll eliminate another one. So you have
Annabel Lee.
Annabel.
very good. Why would you remove Annabel Lee from the possible answers?
It's
Tungkol po siya sa death ng babaeng ni Annabel Lee.
Okay. Yes, it's about death of a beautiful lady. Aside from that, why Annabel Lee is not a possible answer? Because here, you're looking for a story, and Annabel Lee is not a narrative. It's a what genre?
novels.
Three.
Mhm. It's a poetry. Okay. Annabel Lee is a poem, a tribute to a beautiful lady who died. Okay. So there. So correct answer is The Fall of the House of Usher. So The Raven is also poetry. Yeah, no, it's not. It's also a short story. Okay. So let's talk about the fall of House of Usher in 1839. This reveals the tragedy of Roderick Usher, who suffers from a variety of mental health disorder, not even invented or named by modern psychology. When Poe wrote about them, hyperesthesia, sensory overload, hypochondria, okay, and acute anxiety. Okay, it's a stellar tale sure to disturb and delight the reader. Okay, so apart from Annabel Lee's work, what do you know about Edgar Allan Poe? Edgar Allan Poe is another probable item in your exam. What is Edgar Allan Poe famous for? Very
Detectives.
good. Okay, detective stories. Okay, The Count of Monte Cristo. Very good, David. What else? About the death and the okay, he is known for his death and detective stories. What else? He is the father of he is the father of Yes, he wrote The Cask of Amontillado. Okay, if you're teaching, if you will teach English 9, definitely you will be teaching Edgar Allan Poe's The Cask of Amontillado. It's always within the English or grade 9 textbook for English. Okay. He is the father, very good. He is the father of horror tales. Very good, Nimrod. Okay, and another fun fact about Edgar Allan Poe, he is an alcoholic and he cannot write unless he is intoxicated. So, apart from his dark past, okay, or melancholic childhood, his quality or his personality as an alcoholic, okay, are often associated to the theme or to the genres of his work. Okay, that's Edgar Allan Poe. Remember him. Okay, so here are the works of Edgar Allan Poe and why. Okay, The Raven is a narrative. Okay, it's a narrative poem by Edgar Allan Poe in January 1845. It tells of a talking raven's mysterious visit to a distraught lover, tracing the man's slow fall into madness. Macbeth, you are correct. It's a tragedy, a play written by William Shakespeare. It is set in Scotland. We'll go back to Macbeth later because in literature, you will most likely be given questions about classical literature. So definitely, Shakespeare is a must know. Okay, Annabel Lee is the last completed poem composed by American author Edgar Allan Poe. It explores the theme of the death of a beautiful woman. So here are the works of Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven, and other writings. Okay, The Cask of Amontillado, The Telltale Heart. All right, so let's talk about William Shakespeare, the father of English drama. Okay, in what particular period in literature, okay, um, did Shakespeare live? This is the golden age of English literature. What do you call that period? That era of William Shakespeare. What era or what period in literature? Uh, before the Renaissance. The Dark Age. This is the golden age of literature. Not Victorian. This is the Elizabethan period.
Queen
You're in,
Elizabeth.
yes, you're in the reign of.
Queen
All
Elizabeth.
right, so this is the golden age of literature because Queen Elizabeth encouraged scholarship. Okay, so literature flourished along with the discovery or invention of the printing press. So books become readily available to people because of the invention of the printing press, and so with the golden age of dramas or theater. So a drama is a composition in verse or prose presenting a story in pantomime or dialogue. Although Shakespeare had written other genres, but he had become very popular for his tragedies. So among the different genres of dramas are comedy, tragedy, farce, melodrama, and musical drama. So a comedy, okay, as the term implies, it's lighter in tone than ordinary works and provide a happy conclusion. So in a comedy, you're expecting a happy ending, but it's somewhat similar to farce. What's the difference between comedy and farce? Both of them are humorous in nature. they are written to make the audience laugh. It's an attempt to humor. But what's the difference between the two? Okay, a farce ends with a tragedy. Okay, a farce actually is characterized with the use of nonsensical humor or even slapstick humor. When you say slapstick humor, exaggerated movements, okay, you hit another person, yung mga parang humor nila Dolphy and Palito, mga ganon. Yan, mga humor ni Mr. Bean, mga slapstick yan. So, yun yung difference ng comedy. Farce does not have a solid storyline as compared to a comedy. So, that makes them different from each other. Okay, a tragedy, as you may know, okay, it has darker themes such as disaster, and it all the time involves death of the major character. In tragedies, there is a loophole in the major character that would cause his or her downfall. And melodrama, okay, an exaggerated drama which is sensational and appeals directly to the senses of the audience. Okay, another is what we call as the musical drama, wherein the dramatists not only tell their stories through acting and dialogue, but through dance and music as well. So those are the common genres of drama or play. Now, let's talk about Shakespeare's tragedy. Definitely, may makukuha at makukuha dito. So, let's have the first one. Okay, this is, actually, they are similar in terms of plot. Okay. Antony and Cleopatra, as well as Romeo and Juliet. Can someone tell me about Romeo and Juliet? This is taught in English 9 as well, but it's a little controversial because it gives teenagers or students wrong impression about love. So, what makes Romeo and Juliet controversial? 16 years old marriage, yes, Romeo was. Okay, and Juliet is just turning 13. So they are, okay. But anyway, in their culture, okay, in the norm in Italy that time, it's no big deal. The age is no big deal because Juliet was really arranged to marry another family friend. But what makes this controversial? Because it's not a love story. It's a story of uh, hate and haste. Okay, why? Because it's a whirlwind love, or it's a whirlwind affair. They meet at the party of the Capulets, Juliet's family. Okay, they fell in love at first sight, slept with each other the same night, and got married the next day. So, uh, that would give the wrong impression of about love to students whenever we teach it. So, if you're teaching English American literature, English literature, or Shakespeare to your student, you have to process this very well because they may get the wrong or the misconception about love through Romeo and Juliet. So it's a tragedy because after the marriage, Juliet's cousin Tybalt killed Romeo's best friend Mercutio, and out of anger, Romeo killed Tybalt. And then, of course, he's wanted. He tried to escape. Both of them tried to escape, actually. Juliet tried to escape the arranged marriage. And so they thought of a plan, okay, as initiated by the priest, okay, in the story. So Juliet drank a potion that would make her heart stops beating. And then Romeo thought Juliet was dead, and so he killed himself beside Juliet's body. When Juliet woke up, Romeo is dead, and so she committed suicide as well. So almost the same plot as Antony and Cleopatra. The difference is the setting. Romeo and Juliet is set in Verona, Italy, and Antony and Cleopatra is set in ancient Egypt. So, but just the same, because of miscommunication, Antony and Cleopatra also ended up committing suicide. So that makes them tragedies. Macbeth. Okay. What is the theme of Macbeth? What is the theme of Macbeth? For some, Macbeth is also anti-feminist. Why? In this story, because of ambition, and because of a prophecy that Macbeth will become king, Lady Macbeth, okay, his wife, persuaded him um, to kill the king. And because of guilt and because of paranoia that people might find out about it, Macbeth ended up killing more and more people. So later on, tragedy, both the entire family of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth died. So what is the storyline, or what is the theme? Okay, too much ambition or political ambition could be one's downfall. Okay, next is Julius Caesar. Okay, this is the tragedy of Shakespeare, which gave us the famous lines, friends, Romans, countrymen, and lovers. Okay, our friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, from the speeches of Brutus and Mark Antony. Again, how did it happen? What do you know about Julius Caesar? Can someone tell me? Chris, you may not be asked about the title or the author. You might be asked about the plot or the theme. So, can someone tell me about Julius Caesar? Anybody?
Betrayal, ma'am.
Okay, very good. It's a story of betrayal. Okay, how? Who betrayed who? Julius Caesar, in this tragedy, or in the story, was betrayed by his best friend Brutus. Okay, but Brutus killed Julius Caesar for the fear that he's becoming too ambitious, and his political ambition could turn him into a dictator. Because that time Julius Caesar was a very popular senator of Rome. So um, Brutus betrayed Julius Caesar. He was one of the he joined the conspirators of Caesar in killing him. Okay, but with all honesty, Brutus thought it's for the good of Rome. He sacrificed the life of his best friend for the good of Rome. But actually, he was also deceived by Cassius. So in the end of the story, Brutus died. Brutus died as well. So Brutus was buried honorably, and he was the noblest, and he was called the noblest of all Romans. So remember that. Where do we get those lines? Friends, Romans, countrymen. Okay, that's from Julius Caesar. It's a story about friendship and betrayal. Okay, and political ambition as well. All right, Hamlet. Okay, is another tragedy. Okay, what is the famous line lifted from Hamlet? Okay, very good, Nimrod. To be or not to be? That is the question. Prince Hamlet was so obsessed in solving the mystery behind his father's death. Okay, his father was killed by his very own uncle, who was having an affair with his mother. So, in order to figure out, to find out who really killed his father, Hamlet pretended to be mentally ill. So he pretended to be insane. Okay, so that's where we get to be or not to be. Okay, so let's answer question number 6. In Macbeth, we have seen how a person's downfall was caused by A. Supernatural intervention, B. Naturally bloodthirsty disposition, C. An unfair plot against his life, D. Overwhelming ambition for power. Okay, very good. Letter D, overwhelming ambition for power. For some, letter A could be a possible answer. Why? Because in Macbeth, there are a lot of elements of prophecies. There is a very important prophecy given by a soothsayer. Okay, the soothsayer said Macbeth will soon become king, and Lady Macbeth hold on to that prophecy, and they were so confident of reigning, or they were so confident that they are undefeatable, because the soothsayer also said no woman born can kill Macbeth. So no woman born can kill Macbeth. Unfortunately, the one who killed Macbeth, Macduff, is not woman born. He was born of cesarean section. So, yun pala yun. O, hindi nga siya woman born because he wasn't born of yung natural delivery. Na cesarean section pala siya pinanganak. So, nagkatotoo pa din yung prophecy ng soothsayer. Okay. But that doesn't mean na walang makakapatay kay Macbeth. Alright. So, next. Let's have number 6. All right, this one. Okay, he was the American president who said, "Ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for freedom of man." And it's quotably or popularly quoted as, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." I think this okay, you are very much familiar with this. It's JFK. It's John F. Kennedy. This appeared in the examination, in the previous examination. So definitely, they will not ask JFK. But what we are certain is that this is the type of possible question. Okay, so they might be asking not JFK, but other American presidents or other political or spiritual leader who made a great impact in history. So you have to be familiar as well of the famous lines or quotable quotes from popular people or from political or spiritual leaders. So let's review. Okay, let's play while we are reviewing quotable quotes. Let's do Guess Who. I want you to guess the author of the famous quotations in the following slides. I will not be giving options, but I will provide clues at the bottom of the slide. There are jumbled letters at the bottom of the slide. Okay, you ready? Type the correct answer. To learn, you have to listen. To improve, you have to try. Who said that? To learn, you have to listen. To improve, you have to try. Okay, very good. Thomas Jefferson is the correct answer. Galing ni Nimrod. Feeling ko magiging top-notcher si Nimrod. Okay, kanina pa siya. He's giving correct answers and he's among, top 1. Yes, go for number 1, Nimrod. Okay, so yes, it's Thomas Jefferson. To learn, you have to listen. To improve, you have to try. All right, let's have the next one. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new.
Albert
Einstein.
Okay, very good. That's Albert Einstein. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Okay. Mas prefer niyo yung audio, no? Bakit? Para hindi na-spell.
Matagal mag-type.
Matagal mag-type. Okay, sige. Okay, next one. Who said that the best way to predict the future is to create it?
Abraham
Lincoln.
Abraham Collin? What's the correct answer? It's
Lincoln.
Alright, it's Abraham Lincoln. Okay. Alright, Abraham Lincoln. Okay, remember that. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Okay, this one. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay, very good. Be the change you want to see in this world is from Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, next. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Especially, we have to know this. Very good. It's Nelson Mandela's quotation. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Okay, so you will be future educators. Do not forget these words from Nelson Mandela. Okay, so holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person.
Gautama Buddha.
Bilis. Okay, very good. It's from Gautama Buddha. Okay, that's right. Okay, tandaan niyo yun, ha? Okay, it's just a run through of the quotable codes. Okay. Let's answer number 8. Choose which part of the sentence has an error. So we'll do identifying sentence error. Okay, from literature, we're moving on to grammar. So the board reviewing the courses offered by the college found that the quality of academic programs were generally good but somewhat uneven. Letter A, reviewing. Letter B, found. Letter C, were. Letter D, no error. Which part is grammatically wrong?
The board reviewing the course offered. The board review the course offered by the college found that the quality of
Common yan sa exam.
Were.
Okay, identifying sentence error. That's the correct answer. Correct answer is letter. Okay, yes, Rosanna, you're right. Correct answer is were. Can someone explain why were?
Because of the word quality.
Okay, the word quality is the subject being referred to, or what should it be then?
Was.
Okay, very good. So quality singular. So the correct word is was instead of were. So it's wrong in terms of subject and verb agreement. So, ayan, na-explain na niya. Next, okay, here are tips for items wherein you are required to identify sentence error. Okay, number 1, you should be well versed of the parts of speech. You should be familiar with adverb, adjective, conjunctions, nouns, interjections. Okay, let's review. What are nouns?
Name of place, event.
Okay, names of persons, place, event, quality. Okay, so naming words. Why are nouns important in identifying sentence error? So you have to be able to recognize if the noun is singular or plural. That's the main requirement for you to determine if the subject agrees with the verb. Common pa naman yan na nilalagay nila na sentence yung merong mali sa subject and verb agreement. So you need to be able to identify what is the subject of the verb. Okay, is it singular or plural? So as a rule, in subject and verb agreement, okay, if the subject is singular, the verb should be singular. But the difference between between nouns and verbs is that singular subject does not end with s and or es, but in verbs, singular verbs end with s or es. So if the subject has no s or es, the verb should have s or es. However, there are so many exemptions to the rule. There are nouns which end with s but actually singular in number, like statistics, physics, economics. Okay, they may appear plural, but then they are singular in number. So you have to be able to distinguish that. What else? There are so many exemptions. We have exemptions when it comes to words that are always singular. May mga words na hindi pinupluralize. For example, can you give me a word that will never be plural in terms of form? Palagi lang siyang singular. Very good. Equipment. We don't say equipments. That's grammatically wrong. It's always singular. Okay. What else? Yes, statistics. Okay, it ends with S, but it's singular. It refers to one body of knowledge, so it's singular. What else? I want you to give me words na laging singular in form. Caesars, laging plural in form yan. Okay, very good. We never say informations. It's just information. Okay, what else? Ano pa?
Non-teaching staff, manual staff.
Okay, staff. Kasi staff is a collective noun. Okay. Ano pa? Like information, we never add S to them. Lagi lang siyang singular. If you want to pluralize them, you add a quantifier. For example, pieces of information. Okay. What else? You don't say advices unless it's a verb. Magkaiba naman yung spelling nun. You don't say advices. You say pieces of advice. What else?
Stop.
Bedding. What else? Bedding. Laging singular yan. You don't say beddings. Okay. What else? Soil is, yes, you don't add S to soil because another rule naman yon, because it's a non-countable. It's a mass noun. You don't count grains of or granules of soil. Okay. Ano pa? Yung mga laging singular, hindi natin yan ipo-pluralize, never. Okay. For example, sheep. We don't say sheeps. Okay.
Deep.
Lagi lang sheep yon. What else?
Deer.
Deep.
Okay.
Fish.
Teka lang. Deep ba is adjective? As in deep as in
Deer.
adjective? Okay. For example, ano pa? Okay. Series. Series, yes, it's a noun. Ang hirap lagyan ng S ng series. What else? This one, fish. Before, it's never acceptable to pluralize fish. Okay, we don't say fishes before, but nowadays it's acceptable to say fishes because that's one quality of English as a language. It's a living language. It's capable of growth from time to time. What is acceptable today may not be acceptable tomorrow. What is acceptable or what is not acceptable today may not be acceptable tomorrow. Baka obsolete na. So you have to be updated. Yung mga changes na yan sa English. Okay, so nouns. Okay, let's deal with nouns a little more later. Okay, what else? When we say pronouns, these are words used to substitute nouns. Alam nyo na yan, personal pronouns. Okay, maraming klase ng pronouns. So as a rule, there should also be noun-pronoun agreement. So the pronoun must agree with the noun in terms of gender and number. For example, if the subject is singular and a male, then the pronoun that you should use is he. Okay, it should always agree in terms of number and gender. Okay, what else? Adverbs, adjectives. Okay, yes.
Ma'am, may tanong lang po ako. Yung shrimp
Sure.
po na word, kapag plural po ba, linalagyan po ng S or as
Yeah. Pwede naman yung shrimps. Pwede siya.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi yung tinuro po sa amin yung tinuro po kasi nung about sa shrimp shape, hindi daw po pwedeng lagyan ng S kasi pwedeng singular inform, plural inform na daw po yun.
Kasi there are just like what I've mentioned earlier in English, there are always something new. Okay, what is acceptable today may not be acceptable tomorrow. What is not acceptable today may be acceptable tomorrow. Let me give you another example. Yung word na MC, there's no such word as MC. It's just letter M and C, as in acronym for Masters of Ceremonies. But since it has become very popular, okay, MC, then the dictionary accepts the word EMCEE. So birth of new words. Okay, among all languages, English has the biggest lexicon. What is lexicon? Dapat alam niyo yan. Okay. What is, among all languages, okay, of all the languages in the world, English has the biggest lexicon. When we say lexicon, this is the total number of words in a language. And English has over 500,000, more than 500,000 words and counting. So how did they get those 500,000 words? From constant borrowings, okay, forming of new words from time to time. Kaya lumalaki yung lexicon ng English language. All right. So there. Ano pa? Okay, so we have discussed nouns, pronouns, pag verbs, action words. Ano mga dapat ninyong tandaan when it comes to verbs aside from subject-verb agreement? Dapat pay attention to the verb tenses. Okay, there should be consistency in verb tense. Okay, what else? Adjectives are words that modify nouns or pronouns. So they are modifiers, descriptive words. Okay, so what else? Adverbs, on the other hand, modifies adjectives, verbs, and also other adverbs. Minsan nagiging confusing yung adverbs at saka adjectives. Kailan siya, there are words kasi that can be used as adverb. Okay, there are words that can also be used as both adverbs and adjectives. Okay, for example, good. Okay, good, pwede yung adverb, pwede yung adjective. For example, she is a good singer. Okay, ano yun? Adverb or adjective? She is a good singer. It's adjective. Bakit? Bakit siya adjective? Because it describes a noun. Okay, the singer. But when you say she sings, she sounds good. Okay, you sound good. Okay, hindi na yun adverb. Okay, hindi na siya adjective, nagiging adverb siya because it modifies an action. So for example, ito, she cooks real good. That's incorrect. She cooks really well. Okay, it's better to use the adverb in that case. Ang conjunctions, commonly namamali, okay, and common mistakes as well, yung subordinating and coordinating conjunction. Okay, alam niyo naman yung mga coordinating conjunctions, alam niyo yung fun boys, di ba? For and, ano pa? Nor. Okay. Okay, what else? Interjection. Wag na interjections, madali lang yon. Kulang dito, prepositions. Ito, another cause of mistake pa yan, yung preposition. Okay. So, it's a matter of choosing which is the most appropriate word for the sentence. Okay, another, make sure that the subject agrees with the verb. What else? You need to make sure there is no parallelism. What do you mean by parallelism? Ito, another, another common error na ilalagay nila sa sentence. Parallelism. What is parallelism? In parallelism, all words in a series should be of equal importance or value. For example, okay, students dapat proportional, coherent sila. Students must go through programming, computing, and how to process. Wrong yon because it's unparalleled. How should we do it? Okay, gumamit ka ng gerunds, programming, computing, dapat yung last part, gerund pa din. So, processing. So, what else? Modifier, ito. Okay. Modifier is something which should come after the subject as it modifies the subject. So, common mistake or common errors are dangling and misplaced modifier. What is the difference between dangling and misplaced modifier? Pag misplaced modifier, okay, yung modifier malayo sa noun na minomodify niya. Okay? Pag naman dangling modifier, wala siyang minomodify. Dapat walang modifier doon kasi hindi naka-indicate yung noun doon. Okay? Here's an example. Swamped in mud, Jai rescued the puppy. Okay? Sino ang swamped in mud? Look at the first sentence. Swamped in mud, Jai rescued the puppy. If we will base it on context, just on the construction of the structure of the sentence, who was swamped in mud?
The puppy.
Supposedly the puppy. But since Jai is closer to the modifier, it appears that it's Jai who was swamped in mud. Kasi meron na kayong prior understanding. Parang naintindihan nyo na it's the puppy na maputik. Okay, but if you are going to look at the structure itself, parang si Jai, kasi Jai is closer to the modifier, siya yung naging swamped in mud. Okay, so to correct the sentence, it should be swamped in mud, the puppy was rescued by Jai. So as a rule, okay, the modifier should always be close to the noun it modifies. Pag magkalayo, it's misplaced or dangling modifier. Okay. All right. Misplaced modifier. Pag wala yung minomodify, dangling. All right. Next. The sentence must not include repetitive words or redundancy. Okay. He will return back next week. Okay. Bakit redundant yon? Return na nga eh. Okay. Return na. Maraming mga case of redundancy eh. For example, if in case I forget, mali yun. Those are common redundancies. Bakit mali? Yung if in case I forget. Anybody? Should I forgot? Okay. Why is it redundant? If means in case. In case means if. So you just choose one. You don't choose both at the same time. What else? Ito, common mistake ng teacher. Class, let us discuss about pronouns. Let us discuss about subject-verb agreement. That's redundancy. What makes it redundant? To discuss means to talk about. Okay. So when you say discuss about, you are saying discuss about. So wrong yun. So how are you going to do it? Okay. Class, let us discuss pronouns. Or class, let us discuss subject-verb agreement. So, or class, let's talk about pronouns. Or class, let us tackle pronouns. So redundancies. So that's another possible error in a sentence. Okay, our topic, yes, our topic is about, pwede yun, but never say discuss about. Kaso naging fossilized na siya eh. Kasi it's been, we hear it from teacher, so students would mimic the teacher until it's, panoorin ko na lang. Okay. All right. So it becomes fossilized. So you hear the teacher saying, then you copy or mimic your teacher. Okay, and then it's passed down pa sa sunod na mga batches. So, redundancies. Marami pa example pero tsaka na natin pag-usapan. Seminal grammatical punctuation, spelling, details, or knowledge is must-have for people appearing for error identification tests. What else? Just like what I mentioned earlier, pronouns agreement. He, she, it should go with does or es. And when you, we, they must go with doing. Okay, let's have examples. Okay, choose. I'll read it so that you can process it while I'm reading the sentence. Choose which part of the sentence has an error. After hours of futile debate, the committee has decided to postpone further discussion of the resolution until their next meeting. After hours of futile debate, the committee has decided to postpone further discussion of the resolution until their next meeting. Okay, what's the correct answer? Mahirap. Dati hindi pa tapos yung question, nagsasagot na kayo. Is it A, after? B, to postpone? C, of the resolution? And letter D, there. Okay. Yes, they all seem correct. Okay.
Ano, gutom ka na ba?
It's a very, hindi pa naman. It's a little tricky. Tricky siya. Okay, final answer. Ano na? Correct answer is there. Why there? Okay, let us discuss. Okay, what makes this tricky is the use of collective noun. Okay, alin ang collective noun dito?
Committee.
Very good. Committee. Okay. Collective nouns can be singular or plural depending on their usage in the sentence. If the collective noun functions as a whole, singular siya. If it functions as individual members, plural siya. Okay. In this particular case, does it function as singular entity or individual members? Ginamit yung has, and they agreed to postpone. So they function as one. So it's singular. Therefore, hindi dapat there. Okay? Ano dapat siya? It should be its instead of their. After hours of futile debate, the committee has decided to postpone further discussion of the resolution until its next meeting. What makes this tricky? I told you earlier that if the collective noun functions as a whole, singular. Pag functions as individual members, plural. There is also a signal that they may have functioned as individual members. Ano yun?
Banana ba to?
Hindi has. What phrase in the sentence that can give you an impression, ay, baka plural siya.
Ano?
Anong part ng sentence that would give you, that could confuse you? They may not function as one. Ano? Ito. After hours of futile debate, if they are debating, they are not functioning as one. They are functioning as individual members of the committee. So earlier, before they agreed to postpone the discussion, they were functioning as individual members. But in the second part, after the subordinate clause, they have decided now, or the committee has decided to postpone further the discussion of the resolution. Okay, so tricky yan, yung mga collective nouns. For example, give me other collective nouns. The jury. Okay, jury, a group of, ano yung jury? What's a jury? Jury. Jury. Jury, a group of judges. Okay, a group of judges. Okay, for example, the jury agrees on a unanimous decision. Okay, agrees, may S ang verb ko. Kasi jury functions as one. Anong clue that they function as one? The decision was unanimous. Okay. But when you say the jury disagree with the resolution. Okay? Bakit disagree? Wala nang S yung verb ko. If there is disagreement, then they are not functioning as one entity or as one group. Therefore, plural siya. Okay? So tricky yung mga collective nouns. Okay, let's have more examples. Okay. Choose which part of the sentence has an error. The students have discovered that they can address issues more effectively through letter writing campaigns and not through public demonstrations. The students have discovered that they can address issues more effectively through letter writing campaigns and not through public demonstrations. Irene said A. Yung iba.
Ayaw, tama.
Mahirap? O, alam niyo na kung saan kayo mahihirapan sa sa exam. A. Okay. Other answers? D.
Parang ko nalaman. Natutulungan ka nito o kado.
Parang naputol yung option. Okay. Sige. Anong mali dito? Anong mali dito? Dalawa yung sagot, parang hindi na filter. Okay, sige. Bakit mali yung sentence na to? Anyway, both your answers, C and D, are pointing to the same part of the sentence. Bakit mali yung second part ng sentence na yon? Anybody? Bakit mali itong part ng sentence na to? Yung mga sinasagot nyo kasi pare-pareho, not and through. Bakit mali? Because of and. Okay, could that be because of and? Bakit mali yung talagang part na yan? And not. Okay, mali yung
Ulit-ulit
part na
yung
yan.
true.
Yes, yun. Nakita ko na yung sagot. Sino yung sumagot ng and comparing? Sino yun?
Opo daw.
Yes, bakit and comparing? Mali siya because you're comparing. Okay. Can you explain your
Because
answer?
of the word more
Exactly.
effectively.
So ano dapat?
Than campaigns.
Very good. Okay, very good. So whenever we use the comparative degree of adjective, yung more, dapat may kapartner siya na than. Okay, so mali na yung and not. Okay, so more than through public demonstrations. So more effectively through letter writings, more letter writing campaigns than through public demonstrations. Kasi dapat than yon instead of and not. Kasi comparative. Remember that, ha? Comparative at saka superlative. Positive, superlative, and comparative degrees of adjective. Kapag comparative, you are only comparing two persons, places, or things. Kapag superlative, three or more. Okay. So, na-explain na niya. This one, choose which part of the sentence has an error. All states impose severe penalties on drivers who do not stop when he or she is involved in accidents. I have received only 2 answers. How about the others? Okay. All right. Correct answer is letter C. Can someone explain why letter C? Can someone explain why letter C?
I think
Ayan.
the
Yes.
drivers, and I think we will use they. Ano ba?
Okay, very good. When they are involved in accidents. Correct. So it's a matter of agreement between the subject or the pronoun and its antecedent. Okay. So it should be they are involved in accidents instead of he or she. But there are cases, for example, the sentence is penalty on a driver, okay, who does not stop when he or she is involved in an accident. Okay. Kapag hindi particular yung number naman, okay, hindi siya plural, it's acceptable to use he or she. Because another thing that you need to pay attention these days is gender sensitivity. Okay? Kaya minsan mas nakakahaba ng sentence kapag nag-o-or pa tayo, he or she. Unlike before, the general rule, if the gender is not specified, he palagi. But of course, with the feminism point of view, okay, parang offensive na yun, na kapag hindi tukoy lang ang gender, we pertain to the male gender right away. So now these days, whenever we are using pronouns, dapat nilagyan na ng he or she if the gender is not specified. Okay, so that's for gender sensitivity. That's another thing you have to remember. But in this case, very good explanation. Okay, it doesn't agree, the pronoun and the antecedent. So dapat they are involved. All right. Okay, next. Okay, this one. Choose which part of the sentence has an error. No one dares to disobey Miss Johnson as she is the strictest between all the teachers. Ang bilis ni Caleb. Caleb, can you explain? You're the first one to answer. Can you explain why you answered between? Caleb, can you answer why between?
Dapat po kasi among, kasi superlative, strictest.
Very good. So when you say between, you are only referring to two persons. So since it says strictest, okay, so it should be among all the teachers. Correct. Okay. All right. Now we're done with identifying sentence error. Let's do verbal analogies or word analogies. Okay. Answer number 1. Number 13. My A, my B. Okay. Who would like to explain why letter A is the correct answer? Can someone explain why letter A is the correct answer?
Opposite.
Yes, opposite.
Opo, yung coward and brave po, magkasalungat. Opposite po. Kaya po yung selfish, siya rin po yung kabaliktaran ng philanthropist.
Exactly. So that's one common relationship in verbal analogy. So coward is antonymous to brave. So you look for an antonym for philanthropist. That should be selfish. So let's talk about verbal analogies. What are the tips when you are given verbal analogies in your licensure exam? Okay, verbal analogies provide excellent training in seeing relationship between concepts. So verbal analogy, pwede siya sa English, pwede din siyang gamitin sa science. Okay, pwede din siya mag-appear na question sa science. From a practical standpoint, verbal analogies always appear on standardized tests to determine an applicant's quickness and verbal ability. So it's a test of vocabulary then. So how do we read verbal analogies? The simple colon means is to, and the two colons means as. For example, aspirin is to headache, as nap is to fatigue. Okay, what's the relationship? Okay, we take aspirin to relieve headache. Okay, the same way as we take a nap to relieve fatigue. So the relationship between aspirin and headache is the same as the relationship between nap and fatigue. So that's just one relationship or possible relationship in a verbal analogy. And there are also other relationships involved. For example, here are tips in doing the analogies. Try to determine the relationship between the first pair of words. So eliminate any pairs in your answer choices that don't have the same relationship. Okay, try putting the first pair into a sentence. For example, aspirin relieves a headache, therefore a nap relieves a fatigue. Okay, sometimes paying attention to the word parts would also help. For example, knife is to cut. So, identify anong part of speech ba si knife. Knife is a noun. Cut is a verb. So, pen, a noun, o alam mo na, dapat ang correct answer is also a verb. Kapag sa option may nakita ang adjective, cross out mo na agad yon. May nakita ka na noun, i-cross out mo na agad yon. Okay? So, here are common relationships. Sameness or synonyms. For example, boring and monotonous. Okay, wealthy is to affluent as indigent is to poverty stricken. Okay, what else? Antonymous relationship. For example, genuine and phony. Okay, zenith, okay, it's a peak. Okay, to nadir, as pinnacle is to valley. So, opposites. Okay, another, classification and order. Sometimes, general to specific, minsan naman specific to general. For example, fruit is to peach. That means general fruit, peach is a kind of fruit. Minsan, inverse ang relationship. Okay? You start with specific, peach. Ano, what is peach? What class does it belong? Okay, fruit. So, example, orange is to fruit. So, as beet is to vegetable. Okay? And another is difference of degree or quantitative values. For example, cool is to frozen, slender is to skinny. So the next level to coolness could be the state of being frozen. And what is more slender is skinny. So it could be in terms of degrees. For example, clever is to crafty, modest is to prim. Let's practice. Okay, complete the analogy. Stanza is to poem. Ang daming pronunciation yan. Poem, 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 all of them acceptable. Okay, stanza is to poem, as act is to blank. What's the answer? Okay, ang daming letter A. Mali kayo lahat. Hindi movie. Correct answer is opera. Yun, humabol si Marian. Okay, ayan, si Rosana. Bakit? Can someone explain the relationship? Can someone explain the relationship? Any volunteer?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
So po, because stanza po is part of a poem po. Yun po yung part of the poem po yung stanza, while yung acting po is part of an opera because sa opera po nag-act po yung mga actors and actresses. Yan lang po yung explanation ko po.
That's correct, actually. Stanza is a part or a division of a poem or in a poem. An act is a division or part of an opera. Bakit mali yung movie? Sa movies ba ngayon we say act 1, act 2? Hindi naman, di ba? Di ba? Pag sa movie, anong ginagamit natin? Hindi act. Pag movie yan.
Scene?
Yes, di ba? Scene. Okay? Kissing scene. Okay, di ba ganon mga ginagamit natin na na term sa movie? So opera is the correct answer. Act is also applicable in plays. Okay, plays. Okay, this one. Complete the analogy. Glimmer is to flicker, as murmur is to blank. Yes, correct. Anna, kanina pa laging natatama si Anna Rose. Anna Rose, you're right. Correct answer is letter C. Can you tell me what is the relationship? What's the relationship, Anna Rose? Hello? Hello? Hala. Paano kaya pag gawin na lang online din yung let, Paano kaya pag naging tapos kapag na-disconnect, na, wala na. Pass your paper na yan. Letter, Irene, bakit letter C? You're right. Why letter C? Irene? What's the relationship?
Ma'am, synonymous.
Exactly. So, babae, lalaki si Irene? Okay, synonymous, correct. Okay. Next. Bouquet is to flowers as flock is to black. Okay. All right, correct answer is
B.
all right, letter B, sheep. Okay, aside from flock naman, kasi flock could also be used as synonym for herd. So maraming hayop, hindi lang ang flock kasi minsan people would think it would only refer to a group of birds, but actually flock could also refer to a group of sheep. Okay, herd. Ayan, pwede yan. All right, so be familiar with the collective nouns. Sige nga, let's have a run through of different collective nouns. What do you call a group of ship? Ships. What do you call a group of ships?
Flock.
Flock din? Flock din?
Herd. Herd.
Hindi, no. No, inulit ko nga ship. Okay, short E yun. Pag sinabi kong sheep, long E yun. Okay, ship. Okay, short E. Ayan kaya tayo mga teachers nami-misunderstood ng mga students Everybody get 1/4 sheet of paper. Ayan, nagiging sheet yung paper. Dapat sheet. We pay attention to our long and short E. Okay.
Fleet.
Fleet, correct. Ayan, fleet. Okay, what do you call a group of bees? A group of soldier, battalion. What do you call a group of bees? Hive talaga. Yun dun sila nakatira sa beehive. Yes, swarm. Madaming pwedeng paggamitan ng swarm Swarm of, bees. Yun, swarm yun. Okay lang, Angeli. Okay. What do you call a group of musicians? Kasi pwede yung mga ganyan na relationship Individual. Okay, a band. Okay, pwede din. Okay, pwede din na orchestra. Okay. Ano pa? Ayan, correct. What do you call a group of termites? Okay, what do you call a group of termites? Colony. Correct. Pareho lang sila ng ants. Naalala ko tuloy, I was teaching this to my high school students years ago. Because, give me examples of collective nouns. May sabi sa akin, ma'am, ano po, group of tricycle. Ano yun? Sabi, toda. Sabi ko, toda daw yung group of tricycle. Ayun. Take note these are possible relationships sa verbal analogy. Okay. Next. This one. Syllabus is the course. Okay. As agenda is to blank.
No, baby. Don't touch.
Okay. Syllabus is to, ano hinahawakan? Okay. Syllabus is to course. Agenda is to blank. Correct answer is letter D, meeting. Okay. All right. Did I go back? Okay. Okay, this one. Eavesdrop is the conversation as to conversation as trespass is to blank. Choose the best answer. Okay, very good. Correct answer is letter A, property. Others may also answer house, but we have to look for the best answer. Okay. Okay. Ayan, ayan, no, meron pa. Private property, no trespassing. Okay. So, this one. Librarian is to books. Curator is to? Okay. Correct. Curator is to paintings. All right. Okay. Let's proceed to science. Now, ituloy natin yung verbal analogy. As I've mentioned earlier, verbal analogies could also be used in order to test the understanding of certain scientific principles. So, molecule is to atoms as tissue is to blank. Okay. Molecule is to atoms, tissue is to blank. Correct answer is, tama si Joanne. Joanne, bakit letter B? Bakit letter B sinagot mo, Joanne? Paki-explain nga, Joanne.
Specific.
From general to specific. Okay. Any other explanation? What relationship of molecule to atoms is similar to tissue and to cells?
Collection, ma'am, ng atoms, magiging molecule. Tapos collection ng cells, magiging tissues. Tissue.
Okay. Collection or atoms, okay, form molecules.
Non-living.
In the same way that
Smallest non-living.
cells, okay, cells, okay, will form into tissue. Okay, correct. So let's review atoms. Science na tayo. Atoms are the basic building block of all matter. The same with cells. Okay, a chemical element is a substance that cannot be made into simpler form by all ordinary chemical means. So the smallest unit of chemical element is called the atom. And the atom has two parts. We have the nucleus and the electrons. So inside the nucleus are two types of particles. So, ano yung dalawang particles na yon? Okay, ito yung nucleus, as you can see, yung circular part. So inside the nucleus, there are protons and neutrons. So protons have a positive electrical charge. The number of protons in the nucleus determines what element the atom is. Okay, neutrons are about the size of protons but have no charge. So electrons much smaller than protons or neutrons have a negative electrical charge, move at nearly the same speed of light, and orbit the nucleus of exact distances depending on their energy. So, yung mga elements na minimemorize natin sa periodic table, elements are classified depending on the number of protons that they have in the nucleus. So, yun yung nagiging identification nila. Alright. So, bakit tayo nagbalik dyan? Okay, so atomic mass. What do we call atomic mass? The number of protons plus neutrons is equivalent or will give the atom its atomic mass. Okay, pag sinabi naman nating molecular mass, it's the sum of the masses of all atoms in the molecule. Or the collection of molecule is called a compound. Okay, so take note of that. Baka questions would be asked, what is atomic mass? So at least you know, protons plus neutrons equals the atomic mass. So you get the atomic mass by adding the protons and the neutrons. Okay, molecular mass naman, it's made of atoms. Okay, or a molecule is the sum of the masses of all atoms in the molecule. Okay, so next, let's talk about symbiosis. Symbiosis is defined by biologists as individuals of different species living together in intimate association, regardless of whether the association is harmful, neutral, and beneficial. Okay, may mga may term tayo para sa mga relationship na harmful. Meron tayong term para sa mga relationship na neutral at relationship na beneficial. So, alin daw? All of the following pairs are examples of symbiosis, except A, ants and aphids, B, tree and orchids, C, human and tapeworms, D, dogs and cats. Correct answer is... The correct answer is letter... Okay, your answers are correct. Letter D. Why letter D is the correct answer? Bakit siya yung exemption? All three, okay, show symbiotic relationship. Ano ba yung, anong relationship ba yung ant tsaka yung aphids, yung tree at yung orchids, human and tapeworms? Okay, so symbiotic relationship, okay, relationships are three kinds. Okay, it could be mutualism, parasitism, commensalism. Okay, paano ba pag mutualism? Pag mutualism, both species, okay, or both species benefit from the relationship. Okay, for example, ants and aphids or clownfish and anemone. Okay, pareho yon. Okay, sa kanila pareho yon. Okay, pag parasitism, one species benefit, the other is harmed. For example, humans and tapeworms. Okay, pag commensalism naman, the other one is harmed, the other one is benefited, okay, and the other one is unharmed. So, walang bearing sa kanya. So, that's commensalism. So, those are the three types of symbiotic relationship. Okay, next. Let's talk about different branches of science. Definitely may makukuha at makukuha dito. Hindi lang natin alam. So, sobrang dami ng branches of science. We'll never know kung alin dito. What do you call a person who specializes in the study of atmospheric conditions? Okay, correct answer is meteorologist. Okay, bakit mali yung iba? Let's analyze. Geologists, when say geologists, okay, these are people or scientists who study solid and liquid matter that constitutes the earth as well as the processes and history that have shaped in. Pag sinabi naman natin scientist, it's like an umbrella term. Okay, so a geologist is also a scientist. So there are many types of scientists. Let's enumerate them later. Okay, it's a broad sense. It's one engaging in systematic activity to acquire knowledge. A weather forecaster is a person whose job is to report what the weather will be in the near future. So, hindi naman siya scientist. Okay, so, oh my goodness. Bakit hindi ko nalagyan ng, hindi ko nalagyan ng animation pala. Alright, given na yung answer. Okay, a person who studies the spread of diseases is called an epidemiologist. Okay, a person who studies animal behavior is an ethologist. A person who studies how traits are inherited or heredity, okay, is geneticist. So alam niyo na kung anong branch ng science to. For example, yung epidemiology, it's the study of epidemic diseases, okay? So, or the spread of diseases. Pag sinabi nating ethology, it's the study of animal behavior. Pag sinabi naman natin genetics, it's the study of how traits are inherited. Pag sinabi natin geology, it's study of history of Earth. And the person who studies or specializes in geology is a geologist. So, geography is the study of Earth's surface. A person who specializes in it is called a geographer. Sayang, hindi ko nalagyan ng animation. Alright. Okay, pag sinabi nating agronomy, okay, it is the study or the branch of science that deals with soil and crops. Okay, so next, studies of stars, planets, and galaxies. So that is astronomy. A person who specializes in it is called astronomer. Okay? Alam niyo na to, botany, pag-study of plants, botany. A person who specializes in botany is a botanist. Okay? Pag naman, cells, okay, cytology. So, a person who specializes in cells is a cytologist. Okay. Ito. Studies ocean plants and animals. Okay, it's a branch of biology. So, it's marine biology. Okay, a person who specializes in marine biology is a marine biologist. Okay, studies weather and climate. Okay, kanina, given, meteorologist. Okay, a study of microscopic plants and animals, it's microbiology. Okay, so microbiologist yung expert doon. Okay, specializes in fossils, that's paleontology. Okay, or paleontology yung person. Studies matter, energy, and how they are related. Okay, physicist. So the branch of science is physics. Okay, all right. Now let's do application. You have identified the problem in your experiment. What's the next step? Letter A, formulate the hypothesis. Letter B, formulate the conclusion. Letter C, gather relevant data. Or letter D, test the hypothesis. Answer pa. Okay, isa lang ang nakatama. Marian, very good. The next step is to formulate the hypothesis. Akala ko okay, then gather. Yes, pagkatapos, okay. Correct answer, Marian, is A, formulate the hypothesis. Kasi ang tagal na tinuro sa atin to But actually, paulit-ulit lang to Tinuro sa atin ng grade school, pinag-aaralan natin ng high school, and you conducted researches in college, ginamit niya din tong scientific method. Nagbabago-bago lang ang terminology. Okay, for example, anong una? Okay, number 1, in the scientific method is identify the problem. So in other words, okay, ask a question. Kapag nagre-research writing na kayo, okay, ito yung statement of the problem. Ito yung chapter 1. Okay, so ganun yon. After niyo ma-identify yung problem, alam niyo na kung ano yung gusto niyong isolve. Next that you have to do is to formulate or construct a hypothesis. What is a hypothesis?
Scientific guess.
Okay, it's a scientific guess or prediction. So you have a problem, then you hypothesize the possible answer to that problem. And there are 2 kinds of hypotheses. What are the 2 kinds of hypotheses? Pinag-aaralan nyo to, nag-thesis writing kayo. So definitely, ginagamit nyo to when you did your thesis writing. What are the 2 types of hypotheses? Pero isang klase lang na hypothesis ang nilalagay sa research paper. Very good. Ano yung isa?
Alternative.
Okay, very good. So, null and alternative. Pag null, it's the negative prediction. Pag alternative, it's the positive prediction. For example, gusto mong malaman if malunggay is effective in, for example, malaman kung aloe vera is effective in lowering blood sugar level. Okay? So, dalawa lang, ang problema mo is aloe vera effective in lowering the blood sugar level? Okay, dalawa lang ang hypothesis mo, either positive or negative. Yes, aloe vera is effective. No, null hypothesis, aloe vera is not effective in lowering blood sugar level. So, yun yung later on, i-accept or i-reject mo. So, isa lang yung null hypothesis. It's either you accept or reject the null hypothesis. So, second part, pagkatapos mo na mag-formulate the problem, you have to predict saan papunta yung study ko. So, that's when you construct hypothesis. So, after hypothesizing, you have to test your hypothesis. Yun na. You gather data. So, different methods of research have different methods of data gathering. You have mentioned earlier, experiment. Sa scientific method, sa research kasi yan, that is experimental research. So kapag experimental ang research mo, the data gathering procedure is conducting an experiment. Paano kapag ang problem mo ay hindi naman scientific? Or for example, problem in social sciences, hindi ka magla-laboratory experiment. How do you gather data? Pwede ka mag-gather ng data through surveys. You can also gather data through interviews. So depending on the method of research that you want to employ. But whether you conduct interviews, you conduct surveys, or you conduct experiments, laboratory and social experiments, lahat yon, those are part of data gathering. Experimentation, interviews, surveys, data gathering, lahat yon. So after you formulate the hypothesis, to prove or disprove your hypothesis, you need to gather data. So after gathering data, you do analysis of data. So for example, if you conduct surveys, then you have to do statistical treatment. So you would have to analyze your data using statistics. For example, you conduct experiments. So ano yung mga results ng experiments? You have to make meaning. You have to compare the results. So analysis of data yon. For example, you conducted interviews. So you look for commonality sa mga sagot na mga in-interview mo. Okay, so that is still under analysis. Okay, analyze your data. And the last part, of course, after analyzing your data, you have to come up with a conclusion or formulate a generalization. So, di ba, pag tinuturo sa atin to ng grade school tayo, I therefore conclude. Okay? Yung naging college na tayo, naging sa higher educational level, it's either you accept or reject naman your hypothesis. So, same principle, nagbabago lang yung depth ng understanding natin, pero just the same principle. So, do not be confused. For example, this one, I was expecting that you'll get this right. Kasi ano siya, parang tinuro sa atin madalas siya nung grade school pa lang, paulit-ulit. Okay, so after identifying the problem, okay, hypothesis na. All right, next question. To test kung if you understood
question po doon.
Sure.
Sure. Paano ka po makaka-construct ng hypothesis kung hindi ka po muna magba-background research tungkol doon sa question? Di ba para po, ano magiging basis mo ng hypothesis?
Alright. So, ganito. Di ba, part of identifying the problem, we do, okay, in order to, we will apply na yung higher academic level. Whenever we formulate a problem, di ba, in thesis writing, whenever we construct our statement of the problem, dapat you do literature review. So you read about the problem. Ano ba yung existing problem? Ano na ba yung mga nag-exist na solution? May existing solutions na ba sa problem na to? Tsaka ka palang mag-construct ng hypothesis mo. So you cannot hypothesize unless you have prior review of related literature. Kaya nga 'di ba sa mga research paper natin, after ng part 1, ang part 2, literature review. Okay, so yun ang magkakasunod sa research paper, but actually the review of related literature takes place even before you write chapter 1. Okay, parang inorganize mo lang siya sa chapter 2. So how do you construct the hypothesis? Kailangan yun hindi lang basis non observation. Kailangan din yun meron ka ng prior readings or investigation na din. Meron ka na ding readings or background knowledge about the topic. So, ganun yun. Pero sa scientific method, to simplify, na 5 steps lang siya, okay, kasama siya doon sa, it's in between the two. Kasi walang nakalagay dito, di ba, review of related literature, wala naman nakalagay na ganyan. Kasi nakaspecify na lang yon on the research process. Pero dapat in between yan ng identifying the problem and formulating your hypothesis. Did I answer your question?
Opo.
Okay. Did I answer your question? Oh. Hello?
Yes daw po, ma'am.
Ayun. I have to charge my phone. So I remove na my earphone. So there. Okay. So let's test kung naintindihan yung pinag-usapan natin on the scientific method. Okay. To follow up, okay. In one of his investigations, Alexander Fleming noticed that bacteria growing on agar did not grow next to a mold that was growing on the same plate. He wrote in his report, the mold may be producing a substance that kills bacteria. The statement is best described as A. Conclusion, B. Observation, C. Hypothesis, D. Generalization. Okay. Before you answer, who is Alexander Fleming, by the way?
Penicillin.
Okay, very good. Okay, so he invented the penicillin. All right, what's the answer? Okay, nagkakaiba-iba kayo ng sagot. Sino ang 100% sure sa sagot niya? Anyone? Sino yung 101% sure sa sagot niya? Yung I got this. Paki-on yung microphone and explain, please. Ayan, Rosana Ortega. Rosana?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What's your
Kasi po,
answer,
sabi niya, in
Rosana?
one of, ano po, B, observation po.
Okay, bakit observation?
Kasi po, in one of his scientific investigation, Alexander Fleming noticed that bacteria growing on agar did not grow next to a mold that was growing on the same plate. So, nagkaroon po siya ng experimentation po. That's why po sinabi niya, he wrote in his report, the mold may be producing a substance that kills bacteria.
Okay. I have a follow-up question.
Po.
Yes, Rosanna, I have a follow-up question. Your answer is observation. He noticed that bacteria growing on agar did not grow next to a mold that was growing on the same plate. Isn't that Fleming's observation? Hindi ba yun na yung observation niya?
Yes po.
Okay. So, ano kaya siya? Kasi if yun na, okay, ang kinote and quote kasi... Conclusion na ba? Hindi pa rin sa conclusion. Merong nagsagot kanina, okay? Kasi tricky yung question na Rosana, no? Tricky kasi yung question eh, kasi para siyang observation, pero hindi naman siya observation. Okay? Tricky siya kasi. Right? Sino yung sumagot kanina? 99.9% lang para humble. Nimrod, ikaw ba yun? Or si, Jose? Si David? Sino yung sumagot kanina ng 99% lang para humble? Okay. Ano sagot mo? Tricky siya kasi eh. Tingnan niyo. If it's observation, dapat, hi, good evening, David. Ayan, ikaw nga yun. Okay, yan. Okay, anong sagot mo? Kasi kung ang kinote and quote, okay, doon sa given ay yung notice that bacteria growing, okay, keyword is maybe. David, correct. That's a word. That's a very significant word. So kung merong maybe, ano siya? Okay, very good. Anything that is not sure is a hypothesis. So he hypothesizes that, or he hypothesized that, he hypothesized that there could be something, okay, that there could be something, or maybe, okay, producing a substance that kills a bacteria. So that is a hypothesis. Yun yung keyword, yun yung clue dun eh, may. Okay, what else? Kasi kung conclusion yan, may finality in it. Walang may. Pag conclusive na yung statement, tandaan nyo yun ha, pag conclusive na yung statement, okay, wala na siyang may. There is finality in the tone of the statement. Okay. Kung observation naman siya, okay, sana yun na. Kung ano yung na-notice mismo ni Fleming, yun yung ikinote and quote niya. Okay. So, here, generalization could be, pag sinabi natin generalization, it is somehow the analysis of the data gathered. Kaso nga, meron siyang maybe or there must be something in here. So, hypothesis yon. Okay, confusing ano? Parang ang simple-simple ng scientific method pero very tricky. Okay, sige nga. Dahil dyan, isa pa. Okay. Arrange the scientific in chronological order or in the right order. When scientists investigate, it is said that they follow the scientific method, which I had just explained. How will you logically arrange the essential steps in the scientific method? O, kaka-explain ko lang. Here are the steps daw, in no particular order. Make a hypothesis, recognize the problem, formulate the simplest generalization, predict experiments to test the prediction, predict the consequences of the hypothesis. Okay. Okay. Correct. Eliminate A and D. Bakit natin i-eliminate yung A and D? Kasi, alam na natin that the first step in the scientific method is to recognize the problem. Kahit napalitan nila yung verb yan, identify, state, recognize the problem, pare-pareho lang yan. Basta yung problem identification. So, automatically, ang dapat number one, una sa series is 2. So, tanggalin mo na A and D. Dalawa na lang pagpipilian mo. 2, B or C. So, kapag na-recognize mo na yung problem, ano yung susunod? Okay. Ano dapat yung susunod?
Hypothesis.
Okay, correct. You have to hypothesize na. So, 1 yon. Eliminated na si letter B. Kasi pagkatapos ng mag-hypothesize, i-predict mo yung consequences ng hypothesis. Katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, okay, predict mo yung consequences ng hypothesis. Null or alternative lang yon. Pagkatapos nun, perform ka na ng experiment para malaman mo kung i-accept mo or i-reject mo yung hypothesis. And then, out of that, you can formulate the simplest generalization. So, pag generalization, analysis of data yon. Okay? Before or prior to coming up with a conclusion. Okay? So, yun. Application siya, kaya medyo tricky. Right. But anyway, the same principle. Tandaan nyo lang yung 5 steps ng scientific method. Identify the problem, formulate a hypothesis, gather data, kasi minsan experiment, hindi palaging experiment ang gathering of data. Okay, analyzing the data, and then generalization or conclusion. Okay. All right. Next. When clay or mud is hardened and cemented, it forms what? Itong hirap din sa science, no? Questions could come from anywhere. When clay or mud is hardened and cemented, it forms clay or mud. Okay, correct answer is a slate. Bakit? Isa-isahin natin. Ano ba yung sandstone? Okay. Ano ba yung mga ibang mga options? So, wag sabi natin slate, it's a fine-grained, foliated metamorphic rock that is created by alteration of shale, or mudstone by low-grade regional metamorphism. So, it is composed of mainly of clay, minerals, or micas, depending upon the degree of metamorphism to which it has been subjected. So, yun yung slate. Okay. Ano yung mga hindi natin, yung mga wrong na options? When we say sandstone, it is sedimentary rock composed of sand size, kaya siya sandstone, yun yung keyword, grains of mineral rock or organic material. It also contains a cementing material that binds the sand grains together and may contain a matrix of silt or clay-sized particles that occupy the spaces between sand grains. So, sandstone. So, sand yung keyword. Limestone is a sedimentary rock composed primarily of calcium carbonate in the form of minerals calcite. It most commonly forms in clear, warm, shallow marine waters. It is usually an organic sedimentary rock that forms from the accumulation of shell, coral, algal, and fecal debris. It can also be a chemical sedimentary rock formed by precipitation of calcium carbonate from lake or ocean water. So it's formed near bodies of water. Okay, conglomerate is a classic sedimentary rock that contains large, greater than 2 millimeters in diameter rounded clast. The space between the clast is generally filled with smaller particles and or a chemical cement that binds the rock together. Okay. So, itong mga ganitong bagay, you may look for keywords or you memorize them. Okay. So, sa bagay, mas mahirap nga din. Kasi sa English, pwedeng may pattern, although there are many exemptions to the rule. Pero pagdating dito, para ding vocabulary yun eh. The wider your vocabulary, okay, the greater your advantage. Pag ito ganito, the more background knowledge you have, ayan, ang bilis ni Luis, letter D. Okay, Luis, paki-explain nga, bakit letter D, yung number 27? Hindi ko pa binabasa.
Ano po?
Yes.
Yung aerosol sprays po, chlorofluorocarbon.
Okay, correct yan. Alam na alam naman natin yan, di ba? Although lahat naman yung A, B, C, or D are harmful to the environment. Okay, weed killers and insecticide sprays, it can cause soil pollution. Okay, hydrocarbons like gasoline, air pollution yan. Mercury in gold mines, pwedeng mag-cause yan ng water pollution din. So letter D is the correct answer. Basta alam natin yung mga, with regards to global warming, very much familiar na tayo sa topic na yan. Okay, pag namali pa naman. Okay, next. Number 28. Which of the following statements best describes the connection between science and technology? Letter A. Scientists use the laws and principles discovered by technologists. Letter B. Technology is the part of science that deals with mechanical problems. Letter C. Technology involves the practical applications of scientific knowledge. Letter D. Science depends on technology for ideas and organization of experimental work. Bilis magsagot ni Luis, oh. Siguro si Luis yung unang lalabas sa testing room. Tapos na siya. Mga nasa nangangalahati pa lang yung mga examinees. Tapos na siya. Pero tama ang mga sagot ninyo. Okay. Okay, your answers are unanimous. Letter C. Bakit mali yung iba? Okay, scientists use the laws and principles discovered by technologists. It's actually the other way around. Technology is created based on scientific principles. So magkabaliktad siya. Okay, ito, technology is the part of science that deals with mechanical problems. Okay, so yeah, science muna before technology. Okay, technology is part of science that deals with hindi naman. Technology does not only deal with mechanical problems. Okay, pwede yung chemical. Okay, technology involves the practical, ito yung correct answer. Okay, involves the practical application of scientific knowledge. So we use scientific knowledge to create something, to invent something. So yun pumapasok na yung technology. Science depends on technology. It's the other way around. Okay, so technology depends on science. That's why letter D is wrong. Okay, this one. You want to add 35 grams of salt to a solution. What instrument? Hindi ko nalagyan ng animation. Giveaway na tuloy. Okay, what instrument must you see to measure this amount? Pag namali pa naman. Okay, what's the correct answer? Natagalan pa. Illustration na. Okay, what's the correct answer? A, beaker, B, thermometer. Okay, ayan. Natagalan pa sumagot. Okay. So, yes, it's a triple beam balance. Why? Salt kasi, ito naman na graph. Yes, ano yun?
Kiluhin mo siya, kaya balance.
Yes, so grams yun eh. So you have to you have to weigh. So, triple beam balance o kahit anong klaseng balance yan. Yung mga graduated cylinder, yung mga beaker na yan, we use that for liquids eh. Dry yung salt. So, correct yan. Okay, manaligon. Okay. Next. Oh, bakit? Okay. Okay. Eto. Young people stand straight. Very old ones usually stoop. Why? A. Sedentary lives of the old. B. Habit of stooping developed in the old. Kahit mga younger ones nga eh. Greater gravitational pull on the old than on the young. Letter D. Bones of the old have become weaker and soft and their joints become loose. Ayan. Okay. Alam nyo na yan. Kailangan, di ba, pag nagko-commercial ng mga milk for senior citizens, yung mga rich in calcium kasi nagkakaroon na ng okay, calcium deficiency kapag tumatanda. So the correct answer is letter D. Okay. Next. The possible interconnected feeding relationships among organisms in an ecosystem is termed, what's the correct answer?
Food web.
Okay, what's the correct answer? Okay, web yon. Food web siya. Okay, my bad. Okay, bakit eliminate natin yung ibang mga distractors? Hindi pwedeng food groups kasi go, grow, and glow yan. Hindi din pwedeng food pyramid yan kasi it's more on the nutritional needs of the body. So it's either food chain or food web. Pag interconnected kasi, web siya. Kapag, pag food chain, linear lang yung relationship niya. Alam niyo na yung, di ba meron pang nursery rhyme yan yung ayokong kumanta. Basta yun, may nursery. It's a linear sequence of organism which starts from producer organisms and ends with decomposer species. So pag food chain, yun nga, just like what I mentioned earlier, linear lang siya. Pag food web, yun, interconnected. Kasi, ayan, halo-halo. For example, okay, yung rabbit, okay, yan, yung grass, kakainin siya ng rabbit. Okay, tapos yung grasshopper din kumakain ng grass. Tapos yung mouse, tapos yung snake din, yung snake kakainin naman yun. Pag food web, interconnection. Kapag food chain, linear yung feeding relationship. Okay. Alright, next. Application ulit. Billy is one student who tries his best to submit laboratory reports, projects, and other requirements on time. Which of the following scientific attitudes does Billy possess? A. Patience. B. Open-mindedness. C. Responsibility. D. Honesty. Answer? Okay. Until di ba? Of course, responsibility yon. Now, paano kung hindi responsibility yung correct answer? How about patience? On the part of the part of the student as scientist, okay, how would patience be manifested? Kasi application to eh. Paano mo makikita yung scientific attitude sa isang estudyante? Ano ba yung mga manifestations? Halimbawa, yung patience. Okay. What particular qualities or behavior or actions ng isang estudyante that you would describe as being patient? Okay. As a scientific attitude or as a researcher. Ano bang mga manifestations ng patience kapag researcher? Anybody? For example, ang given, okay? Billy diligently gathers the data or conducts surveys with 500 respondents. Ganon. So kahit gaano, for example, he waits for his respondents to finish the survey. Non-patience yon. So paano may papakita ni Billy ang patience as a researcher? okay, or on the part of the scientific process. Okay, waiting for the respondents. Ganon. Or for example, if si Billy is doing laboratory experiments, okay, yung every day na chine-check niya, okay, and patiently, okay, or diligently observing and recording the data. Okay, how about open-mindedness? Okay, kung estudyante mo si Billy, how are you going uh, to judge na, oy, open-minded na bata to? He possesses this scientific attitude of open-mindedness. Anong papakita ni Billy? Kung estudyante mo tong si Billy. For example, Billy listens very well on the comments of the panelists during their research presentation. He humbly accepts criticisms and comply to the corrections and recommendations of the validators or the panelists. So open-mindedness yon. Kapag, di ba, when you conduct researches, when you conduct experiments, you might receive negative feedbacks, constructive criticisms. Kapag ang isang bata tinatanggap at nakikinig sa mga constructive criticisms, that's open-mindedness, a scientific attitude. Okay? Pag naman honesty, paano? Paano maipapakita? Paano ba hindi Okay, for example, it's the other way around. Okay? Billy manipulated, falsification, correct. Manipulated the results of his of the data that he had gathered, okay? Or he misrepresented the data. So finalsify niya, no significant relationship. Inilagay niyang conclusion, by significant relationship. O siya na nagsagot ng mga survey questionnaires. O kaya sabi sa experiment, wait for 5 days. 3 days pa lang, tinapos na niya yung experiment. Dishonesty yon. So, he lacks honesty as a scientific attitude. So, it could be asked in many different ways. So, application siya. Next. Okay, this one. The process of breaking down rocks is called The process of breaking down rocks is called, okay, A or D. Okay, ano pa? A. D. A, D. Ano pa? D. Iba-iba kayo ng sagot. Dito kasi, tanggalin na natin yung obvious na volcanism, hindi siya kasali. So, minsan nakakalito erosion and weathering. Ano bang pinagkaiba ni erosion sa weathering? Correct answer is weathering. Pag erosion, displacement of solids such as water, wind, and ice. For sinabi natin, soil erosion, okay, nag-i-erode yung lupa. For yan, nagkaroon ng landslide. Okay, so, that's one form of soil erosion. Pag weathering naman refers to the decomposition of soils and their materials and rocks through direct contact with the Earth's atmosphere. So the correct answer to that question is weathering. Okay. So next, the water part. This is a giveaway. Okay. Gusto ko lang i-specify or gusto ko lang i-highlight yung iba pa. Pero for sure, kuha niya to. What is the water part of the Earth? Nanadya, minali pa. Okay. Okay. Alright, alam ko naman, alam niyo yan. Hydrosphere. Okay. Alright. Pag lithosphere, yung solid part. Okay. Pag water part, hydro. Kapag gases, that is atmosphere. Kapag all life on Earth, that is biosphere. So, tandaan nyo lang biosphere, all life forms, okay, gases, okay, atmos, alam nyo na yung lithosphere, solid. Okay, next. Where do we trace the El Nino phenomenon? A, rising ocean levels. B, very severe earthquakes. C, annual changes in seasons. Thinning or depletion of the ozone layer. Ano ba yung El Nino? Teka lang. how do you understand El Nino? Drought, correct. Yung opposite yun ng La Nina. Yun naman pagbaha, ganyan. La Nina naman yon. Okay? So, opposite ng La Nina yan. So, El Nino, kung drought yon, saan natin siya i-associate? Ano bang possible cause ng drought? Sino ang makakapag-explain? Anna Rose, gusto mo bang mag-explain? Tama, letter D. Okay, si Joanne din, tama. Sino mag-explain? Bakit letter D? Ang correct answer. Mainit, yes. Ano magiging, nun? Kapag mainit, ano ba kasing function ng ozone layer? Ano bang function ng ozone layer?
Protect us from the CFC.
Okay, so it protects the Earth from direct sun rays. So kapag nasisira ang ozone layer, okay, direct ang sun rays, mainit. Sabi nga ni Nimrod kanina, pag mainit, mag-evaporate ang liquid. So pag lagi nag-evaporate, sobrang evaporate, it would cause drought. So yun ang tamang sagot. Thinning and depletion of the ozone layer. Okay. Alright, so we're done with science. Okay, ito yung pinaka-challenging na part, Filipino. Okay, ang hirap kaya. 15% of the questions in general education will be coming from this area. So dapat basic sa atin to kasi this is our national language. So umpisahan natin, anong tayutay? Anong tayutay ang tinutukoy sa pahayag? Okay, durog ang katawang bumagsak sa simento si Manuel. Diba? Struggle. Tingnan mo, okay, umpisahan natin sa tayutay. Durog ang katawang bumagsak sa simento si Manuel. A. Pagtutulad. B. Pagbibigay katauhan. C. Pagmamalabis. D. Pagwawangis. Okay. Alright, very good. Tama naman. Diba, ang ganda sa English, figurative language. Sa Filipino, tayutay. Ito din yung mga pinag-usapan natin kanina. It's just the Filipino equivalent, diba? Bakit ba naging tayutay ang figurative language? Okay. So, isa-isay natin. Tama. Pagmamalabis. Ano sa English ang pagmamalabis?
Hyperbole.
Correct, hyperbole. So, durog ang katawan, meaning you exaggerate, okay, to make a point na pagod na pagod. So, pagmamalabis. So, tingnan natin isa-isa ha. Kasi, I think earlier naman, the different figures of speech are clear to you. So, ano yung mga equivalent niya sa Filipino? So, let's start with, okay, pagtutulad. Okay, pag simile, okay, simile, comparison, using like and as. Okay, tila, okay, kawangis, ganon. Tila, ikaw ay parang, okay, ikaw ay parang anghel na bumaba sa lupa. Okay, simile yun, pagtutulad. Okay, so gumagamit ka ng mga words na gaya, ng, para, ng, kawangis, at iba pa. So that's simile. Pagwawangis, metaphor, direct comparison. Okay, for example, bigyan nyo ako ng example ng mga common expressions natin sa Filipino na metaphorical, na pagwawangis. Marami yun eh. Ikaw, waiting to people enter the video. Sino yan? Tabi. Alright. Sige. Ano yung mga common expressions, mga naririnig natin na mga Filipino phrases na pagwawangis, metaphorical. Ikaw ang aking mundo. Correct. Okay. Ano pa? Sana okay. Sana all. Okay. Sino nagsabi nun sa'yo? May nagsabi ba? Ano pa? Yung mga sinasabi, ikaw ang aking mundo. Mga sinasabi na metaphorical natin sa Filipino. Ang dami eh. Actually, parang part siya ng mga, natin,
susungkitin ang buwan. Hoy, ang susungkitin ng buwan at bituin, ano yan? Hindi yan metaphorical. Pag sinabing susungkitin ng buwan at bituin, ano yan? Sagutin niyo yon, yung example niya. Hyperbole, yes.
Pagpapalitawa.
Correct. Yes. Hindi, pagmamalabis na yon. Okay, susungkitin. Exaggeration eh. So, di naman totoo. Ayan. So, exaggerated. So, that is hyperbole. So, pagmamalabis. Eto, pagbibigay, alam na natin to, madali lang yan. Pagbibigay katauhan, tumatakbo ang oras. Oh, that's personification. Pagbibigay katauhan, pagsasali ng katangian ng tao sa mga bagay, may buhay man or wala. Okay? Pagpapalit tawag, ito yung metonymy. Mahabang pangusap na isang salita lamang ang katumbas. Okay, so pagpapalit tawag, metonymy. Lagi naman natin ginagamit yung, for example, sa English, the Malacanang announces, announces total lockdown. So, instead of saying the president, ang president naman talaga ang nag-declare nun eh. So, ginawang Malacanang. So, pagpapalit tawag. Lagi tayong ganyan, nagpapalit tawag mga Pilipino. Bumili ka nga ng Colgate na close-up. Okay? Yung yung Pampers na Candies. Kasi yun na yung nagre-register sa atin. Okay, yun na yung nagre-register sa atin na name. Usually, we associate certain brand. So, yun ang pinapalit na natin na natawag sa isang bagay. So, metonymy yun. Okay, or for example, ano ba yung madalas natin ginagamit ng mga metonymy? Yung cutics. Okay, cutics. Cutics is a nail polish brand. Could be one of the earliest brands of nail polish. Kaya siya ina-associate na cutics. O pentel. Uy, pahiram nga ng pentel pen. Pero ang tatak, pilot. Kasi we use pentel in order to refer to a marker. So, in that case, nagpapalit tawag tayo. That's metonymy. Okay. O Coke, kahit Pepsi. Pag matanda, bumili ka nga ng Coke. Pero Pepsi naman yon. Kasi Coke, yun na yung naging nakasanayan natin na brand for soft drinks. So that's metonymy. What else? Pagpapalit ko, ayan, Kodak, correct. Xerox. However, Xerox is now acceptable. Okay? Tanggap na ngayon ang Xerox. So like what I said earlier, English is a living language. What is not acceptable today may be acceptable tomorrow. Before, Xerox is wrong whenever we mean photocopying because Xerox is a machine or it's the brand of the photocopier. Okay, but since we use it from time to time, naging acceptable na siya. Okay, ipa-Xerox, naging acceptable na. Okay, you have to Xerox kaso nag-iiba lang ng pronunciation. Halimbawa sa English, okay, Xerox copy kapag noun. Okay, or this is a Xerox copy. Pero pag naging verb siya, you have to Xerox this. Okay, nagiging Xerox, nagiging verb. Parang gano'n siya. So, pagpapalit sa, iba yun lang metonymy pa yung pinag-uusapan natin. Okay. Pagpapalit sa saklaw, alam na natin to, synecdoche, when a part represents the whole. O, nakatira kayo sa isang bubong. Okay. Sabihin mong hindi kayo, pero nakatira kayo sa isang bubong. O, synecdoche yun. Kasi, instead of saying house, sabihin mo, nakatira sila sa isang bubong. Okay, ano pa? Bigyan niyo nga ako ng example ng synecdoche na ginagamit natin sa mga everyday conversations sa Filipino. Mag-isip. Synecdoche, pagpapalit saklaw. Bigyan niyo ako na iba pang example. Wala na. Gutom na.
Ayoko nang makita ang pagmumukha mo kahit kailan.
Oh, correct. Diba? Ayan, tama din. Ayoko nang makita yung pagmumukha mo kahit kailan. hindi naman talaga pagmumukha, di pag tumalikod, gusto, okay na yon, di ba? So, hindi naman talaga yung mukha lang, yung tao mismo, yung makita. Yun, may sumagot, ilaw ng tahanan, di ba? So, we refer, hindi, pag ilaw ng tahanan, hindi yun pagpapalit saklaw. Okay, ano yun? Pag ilaw ng tahanan.
Tawag.
Ano yun?
Papalit tawag.
Hindi. Okay? Mother talaga yung sinagot. Alam ko naman mother. Okay? Hindi katauhan. Kung sinabi ng ilaw ng tahanan, okay, metaphor na yon. Okay? Metaphor na yon. Kasi ikaw ay ilaw. So, hindi na, ikaw ay parang ilaw. Simile yun. Pagtutulad yon. Pag sinabi mo, ikaw ang ilaw ng tahanan, metaphor na siya. Pagwawangis na siya. Okay, 'di ba? Para mas madali siyang i-process sa but anyway. Okay, kaya 'yan. All right. Next. Mag-aalas 5 na blank umaga blank magising siya. Ayan, common confusion. I think malaking possibility na lalabas 'to. Ano yung sagot? Nilagay tayo na home place yan yung usage ng na. Okay, correct answer is yes, letter C. Okay. Alam ko pinaghandaan nyo to. Siguro alam nyo na lalabas talaga to. So, kailan ba? Okay, ginagamit ang na at nang. So, let's start with the long nang. Okay, N-A-N-G. Okay, if you want to replace the word noon, okay, for example, nang isilang ka sa mundong ito, laking tuwa ng magulang mo. Instead of saying na noong isilang ka, nang. Okay, nang isilang ka sa mundong ito. Wala na raw pagkain nang dumating ako sa handaan. So, noong dumating ako sa handaan. So, pwede mong palitan yung noon ng NANG. Okay, what else? Ibang salita na para at upang. Okay, for example, maligo ka ng maigi. Okay? So, maligo kang maigi nang bango ka naman. Ang harsh naman na to. Okay, maligo ka ng maigi para bumango ka naman. Okay, so pwede mo ipalit yung nang. Or, halina tumaya sa loto nang yumaman tayo. Okay, para yumaman tayo or upang yumaman tayo. Okay, pwede yon. What else? Pwede siya para mas masarap bigkasin ang na. May masarap talagang sige, may masarap talaga. Pwede na pumasok. O nga, di ba? Ang pangalan siya, pwede na pumasok. O, di gawin mo, pwede nang pumasok. Okay? Pwede nang pumasok. Okay? Ang mamatay na, di ba ang pangit naman ko ang national anthem natin, ang mamatay na dahil sa'yo. So, pwede natin siyang palitan, okay? For euphony, para mas maganda sa tenga, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Okay? What else? Kapag katabi ang salitang maaga or early, pwede siyang palit. Uuwi ako ng maaga bukas. Okay? Dumating ka ng maaga. So, pag gagamitin mo yung word na maaga, before maaga, ng, instead na NG. Okay? Alright, next. Paano naman yung ng? Yung short version. Kapag sinasagot ang tanong na kailan, kailan umuwi si Bea? Umuwi ng maaga. Okay? Umuwi ng tanghali si Ben. Okay? Kapag tungkol sa oras at petsa, gumigising ako tuwing ikapito ng umaga. Or sa ikalima ng Disyembre ang kaarawan ko. Next, kapag gusto mong palitan yung word na ubod, pag you want to use it with the word ubod, puro, sa saksakan, okay? Ubod ng ganda, saksakan ng sama. Okay, someone is waiting. Alright. Next, saksakan ng gwapo, yun. Yun na, yun yung mga usage ng na at ng nang at nang. Okay. Sana lumabas para, may 1 point na kayo agad. Alright, next. Ang panukalang inihain niya ay lubhang malalim at mahirap arukin. Anong ibig sabihin? Ang panukalang inihain niya ay lubhang malalim at mahirap arukin. Anong gustong ipahiwatig ng pangungusap na to? A. Okay, abutin. B. Unawain. C. Sukatin. D. Tanggalin. Okay, Alam na natin yan kasi native tongue naman natin. Okay, lubhang, malalim, unless ang mother tongue nyo, hindi Tagalog or Filipino, struggle talaga to on your part. Okay, yeah. So, correct answer is mahirap arukin. Mahirap arukin meaning unawain, hard to understand. Okay, so correct answer is letter B. Alright, let's have the next item. Ayan. Okay. Pinagmamalaki mo siya, bahag naman pala ang kanyang buntot. So, hindi natin to na-touch kanina sa English kasi I prioritize certain topics. Idiomatic expressions. Okay. Sa Filipino, it's idioma. Okay. Anong ibig sabihin ng idiomatikong idioma na bahag ang buntot? Okay. Alam niyo na yan, duwag. Okay. Alam niyo, ilang taon na kayo? Mga ilang taon na kayo? Nasa ano na kayo? 20s, no? Pero if you would ask younger students, you would ask high schoolers, elementary students, hindi na nila alam to. Okay? They are not, but they know foreign idiomatic expressions, pero itong mga estudyante, I've experienced teaching for a year. I've experienced teaching grade school students, grade 5, okay, mga English speaking. So, when they have to fill out a form in Filipino, lahat you have to translate. Edad, hindi na alam ng bata. Teacher, what is edad? Okay, or ano pa, pirma. Mga hindi na alam yung mga ganun na words. All the more itong mga idioma or idiomatic. O mga millennial words na puro flex, ang mga alam, flex ko lang, ang mga ganyan ng mga alam na mga words eh. Okay. So, yan. Be familiar with idiomatic expressions. Sobrang dami yan eh. We cannot shout out. Yan, shout out. Yun yung mga alam. Okay. So, ayan. Sabihin ang gawi ng pananalitang ito. Bawal tumawid, may namatay na dito. Okay. Ito ba isang pananakot, pagtukoy, babala, di paalala?
Babala.
Okay, correct answer is letter C, babala. Kapag pananakot, paano ang mga word choice niyan? Bawal tumawid, mamamatay ka. Yun. Or pananakot yun. Okay? So, pag paalala, paano dapat yun? Bawal tumawid. Anong sabi? Anong sabi yun, David? I had a student. Hindi ayaw ng ano mo, ng mic mo.
Bawal tumawid, baka mamatay ka.
Okay, bawal tumawid. Pagpaalala, bawal tumawid. Okay, may namatay na dito. Pero pag not work, sorry, okay, sana. I would love to hear yung sinare mo doon. Okay, so kapag paalala, okay, bawal tumawid. Maaring may mabibilis ang mga sasakyan. So mga pwedeng ganun pagpaalala. So ang correct answer is babala. May namatay na dito. Alright, this one. Ito, stress naman to sa stress intonation to sa English. Sa aling salita, magkakaroon ng saglit na paghinto kung ipagpipilitang si Rose ang nakabasag ng pinggan. Hindi ko babasahin. Okay. Marian?
Yes po, ma'am.
Ayun, gumagana yung mic. Okay, tinest ko lang kung gumagana yung mic mo. Basahin mo nga siya. Ang sagot mo ay letter B and you're right. So, basahin mo nga siya na may diin or paghinto, pause. Okay? Sa hindi. Kung pinipilit mo na si Rose talaga ang nakabasag ng pinggan.
Hindi. Si Rose ang nakabasag ng pinggan.
Mahinhin ka sa totoong buhay, Marian.
Opo. instead po na hindi si Rose ang nakabasag ng pinggan, magiging hindi si Rose ang nakabasag ng pinggan.
Okay, exactly. Okay, ganun nga. So, di ba, even in English, okay, the meaning of a sentence, okay, may change depending on the delivery, depending on your pausing, depending on your stress and intonation. Okay, the same thing applies in the Filipino language. So, very good explanation, Marian. So, hindi ang tamang sagot. Alright. Next. Ang gintong panahon ng mga manunulat noong panahon ng Amerikano ay batid sa uring or genre na ano? Golden age daw ng genre na to during the American colonization. Okay, anong correct answer? Ang golden age ay ng short stories, yes. Okay, yung mga times ng Americans. Okay, very good. Alin sa mga sumusunod ay may wastong gamit ng tinig ng pandiwa? Ayan, ito yung ini-explain ko kanina din in English, yung dangling and misplaced modifiers. So, alin sa mga sumusunod ang may wastong gamit ng tinig ng pandiwa? Okay. This one is voice of the verb. Ang hinog na papaya na kinuha sa puno ni Marie. Okay. Kinuha ni Marie ang hinog na papaya sa puno. Si kinuha sa puno ang hinog na papaya. Parang bastos tuloy itong letters. Papaya ni Marie. Papayang hinog ang kinuha sa puno ni Marie. Okay. Alin ang tamang sagot? Diba? Alam natin na ang tamang sagot ay letter B. Pero pag ginamit na natin to sa conversation, nagkakabali-baliktad na yan. Let's analyze number 1 option. Ang hinog na papaya na kinuha sa puno ni Marie. Okay. Anong ibig sabihin ni pahiwatig na to? Yung puno ay pag-aari ni Marie. O kay Marie yung puno. Okay. At isa pa, hindi to sentence. It's a fragment. Ang hinog na papaya na kinuha sa puno ni Marie, asaan ang pandiwa? Asaan ang verb doon sa sentence? Wala. So, it's a fragment. So, wrong siya. Kinuha ni Marie ang hinog na papaya sa puno. So, very good. Kasi yung modifiers, nakasunod siya kung saan siya dapat. Okay. Kinuha sa puno ang hinog na papaya ni Marie. Ang gusto naman talagang ipahiwatig ng sentence na to is that it's Marie who took the fruit or the papaya from the tree. So, as it appears, yung papaya ni Marie. Ano ba yung papaya ni Marie? Okay, next. Papayang hinog ang kinuha sa puno ni Marie. Meron bang ibang pwedeng kunin sa puno ng papaya? Diba? Or baka naman hilaw na papaya. Ay, magulo, diba? In short, okay, dapat yung voice, okay, tinig ng pandiwa. Or mas makaka-relate to sa English when in terms of modifiers. So, dapat modifiers are correctly placed in the sentence. Okay. So, next, 45. Ang sentro ng pagdiriwang ng sentenaryo sa Kawit Cavite. Ang sentro ng pagdiriwang ay sa Kawit Cavite. Ang kasing kahulugan ng salitang nasa lalaking letra I. Centenaryo. Answer na. Alam niyo na yan. Uy! Talaga ba, Marie? Yung papaya mo, Marie. Ano? Okay, ano yung centenaryo?
100.
Ilang years yung centenaryo? Centennial. Ilang years? Oh, yes. Yeah, centennial. Okay. Oh, pag milenyo, ilan? Ilang years?
10,000. Ay, 1,000.
Kagigising mo. Matutulog ka na. Sorry Okay, ang ingay ko pa. Gabing-gabi na. Okay, sige. 1,000 yon. Pag millennium. Okay, 100. Maliit ang sisidlan ni Dian, kaya iniiwasan siyang tuksohin ng mga kasama. Ano ibig sabihin nito? This is again, idioma. Okay, idiomatic expression. Okay, huwag mo kung maliit ang sisidlan ko. Huwag mo kung, okay. Letter A, very good. Walang pasensya. Okay. Next, alin sa mga sumusunod ang hindi nabibilang na kasing kahulugan ng salitang palapalagay? Synonyms. What's the correct answer? Okay, correct answer is, bakit nagkakamali pa kayo? Okay, pag palapalagay, opinion, pwede yun. Sa palagay ko, sa opinion ko. Kuro-kuro, yes. Palapalagay din yon. Akala, yun din. Ang correct answer is paniniwala. Kasi pag paniniwala, it could be deeply ingrained na. Okay, deeply rooted na. So, hindi siya palapalagay. So, the correct answer is letter C. Okay, number 48. Ang wikang Filipino ay hawig sa mga wika sa Asya. Alin dito ang pinagmulan ng wikang Filipino? Hoy, grabe. Nihongo talaga. May sugat na B. Anong correct answer?
Ayaw po rin.
Okay, Malayo Polinesyo. Okay. So, kami ang kabataang siyang magiging pag-asa ng bayan. Paano ginamit ang salitang may salungguhit? Okay. Correct answer is pagtukoy. Alright. Ano ba? Yes, letter A. Okay, bakit ba pagtukoy? Ito yung mga, translations. Okay. Kapag pangalan, alam na natin yan, noun. Pag panghalip, pronoun. Pag pang-uri, adjective. Kapag pang-abay, adverb. Pag padamdam, interjection. Pag pang-ukol, preposition. Pag pandiwa, verb. Pag pantukoy, it's article. Okay? So, last one. Pinakamahalagang nobelang Pilipino sa maraming taon na nalimbag noong 1906 at tumalakay ng masinsinan sa paksang puhunan laban sa paggawa at sa sosyalismo. Ang okay. Correct answer is Banaag at Sikat. Okay? Banaag at Sikat. Right? So just remember that. Kailangan tandaan yan. Pinakamahalagang nobelang Pilipino noong 1906 na na-publish noong 1906. It's about puhunan laban sa paggawa at sa sosyalismo. Alright. So that is the last item. Okay. So ayan, that ends our review. So you only have how many days before your examination? More than, kulang oras. Oo nga eh. Okay, thank you. All right. You only have more than a month. Next month, you will be taking your licensure examination. So good luck. Every day that you would wake up, set your goal. Okay, give your best. Prepare yourself not only academically, intellectually, but also emotionally, physically. Baka magkasakit pa kayo in time ng exam, magkakasakit pa kayo physically and also spiritually. Okay, aside from hard work in reviewing, you have to keep on praying. So from this day on, every time you wake up with determination. Give your best so that at the end of the day you can go to bed with satisfaction. Okay, so thank you very much for staying in the last 3 hours. It's been a very productive 3 hours for all of us. So good night, everybody. Good luck to your examination.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Napakagaling niyo po.
Ay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Sorry sa technical difficulty during the beginning of the session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye.